and we are going to check with our live studio and make certain the connection is hitting. Okay. Okay, why is it taking a while? Okay, good. All right, everybody, let us know whether or not you hear us. And we will then proceed with the usual features of transmission, starting with let's check this out, starting with, of course, I'll be the first to hit and upvote on my own program. Everybody follow suit. We're going to start with a blurb. There we are. You want to do that first, or you want to bring everybody on first? Up to you, because I can always just, ramble.
I don't know. Your call. You think it's good to get it out of the way?
Yeah, let's get it out of the way, because last time we didn't. Yeah.
I know how that works. Yeah. Here, I'm so fine. So you can do it along with me here. So I'm going here live. I've not even brought up the turn my sound off here. Oh. Okay, so as soon as you get here, you got to hit the upvote. It's very important. As soon as you show up, we need that in there for algorithm purposes, because our upvotes placed by unfriendlies. You can't see them. YouTube hides them. It's common these days, but it does affect the algorithm and Douglas's ability to be seen. Then make sure you slide over, hit this, check that you're subscribed. Do that. If not, also that the notification bell is on. If you're here, you probably know what time, or you follow the notification. Sometimes if stream gets cut off for whatever reasons, and it takes a while to restart, so that's a good way to, always not miss what's going on. And as far as the upvotes, which are important, as we said, since you have an account to do these things, you can go under your account settings, and there should be a thing in there like switch account or something similar. That is where you can create sub channels. You don't have to have channels, but you have the option to create channels to kind of partition content. That's what the intent is. But the cool feature is that each of those channels that you create under your main profile without any new password or anything like that can all do their own upvoting. So, see, I'm about to do that myself. Switch over here to another. And your main profile can do an upvote, and then if you create channels, it can do an upvote too. So so there is that. And then of course, going to put the right away. Douglas did make rent, as he said, but let me just put the donation link. It's good. That was the first thing in the chat and the last thing in the chat and in between. So going to do that. Also, if you're able, grab the link and share it places right out of the web browser. It should be the same link once it converts to a saved program from a live, I believe. So share that around anywhere you might think is appropriate, and that can help Douglas reach people as well. So
excellent. Okay, yeah. Very good, very thorough. And let me take a look and make certain everything's functioning from my end, and I believe everybody can hear us. JACKSTAR is back, who's a wonderful human being. T-Tank Berry is an incredible human being. And, of course, our indispensable Aristides. He's a man who is in the chat as Vril618. And so, as JACKSTAR says, hi, Douglas. He says, you sound great. He says, I was clicking on the up like switch at the exact time you started talking about it. How nice to be in alignment. He says they're important, so the people who have been exposed to your filth can be tracked later. Laugh out loud. No worries, mate. I'm no enemy of yours. Yes. And he says, thanks, D. I hope there isn't another schism. You're fun to have around. For those like me, you are quite dangerous, a salty puppy. And he says, very kind words, thank you. Do not let me Bigfoot your stream. Yeah, no, you're fine. And so JACKSTAR is an incredible human being that has been around forever. And he's someone who has seen it all. He really has. And he knows the enemy quite well. He knows them better than they know themselves. And he's handled them with tremendous skill. So JACKSTAR is definitely a man among us who stands by our side. and stands quite tall indeed. T-Tank Barry is of that caliber as well, and T-Tank Barry has certainly contributed more than I can describe, as has JACKSTAR in his moral support. And of course, Vril 618 is our man, Aristides, who without him, this transmission would be completely impossible. So he's going to now try and bring everybody on, and I do mean everybody, yeah, all the normal folks that the usual suspects, and we're going to take it from there. Just have a roundtable that will hopefully help us burn bandwidth till I'm ready to go into the deep dive tonight. And as always, there's simply too much to go into, far too much. These days I'm never able to really complete a full train of thought within a single episode. But that's okay. We always have another episode right after that, by which to continue the stream of thought, pick it up, and refurbish it, polish it, explore it from different angles. And unfortunately, there's all too many new angles coming up to explore, as they're spiking us from every direction. By that I mean as a society, inside of the new misadministration. Though I can mean that to be Team Dietrich at other times being, shall we say, targeted from different directions. As for what JACKSTAR brings up with the schisms, to be quite honest, JACKSTAR, they're not really schisms, because you can't have a schism unless somebody is like really breaking with you in terms of some kind of ideological dispute. Say, for instance, in politics or religion, it becomes quite evident there are differences in doctrine. This has never been the case with myself. Everything we've had has been quite literally without any sense of paranoia, as will be testified by Aristides and anyone else we bring on who's been around long enough. But certainly Aristides and Brendan Zogit being the most articulate about it in the immediate sense that I can think of. These are people who are assigned to simply try their best to subvert or sabotage. And you can tell it. You can always tell. I never wanted to work with Daniel Arola. I never wanted to work with any of these people that came up for the most part. But I had no choice. Who else was going to produce in the early days until I learned how to produce? We had this individual from Eastern Europe named Pavel Edward, who actually went by the name Paul Edward. So Heather Holman is asking, who's the Jack guy in live chat? I've just been explaining. He's been a man who's been around forever. And he's basically, he was mistaken for Douglas Dietrich any number of times by Richard K. Cole Jr., who wound up deleting just page after page of thread in which JACKSTAR eviscerated Richard K. Cole Jr. and various other gang stalkers. JACKSTAR would show up and basically they would think he was myself. They would proceed to try and attack him, but he would just devastate them. And so he's quite, shall we say, he has a formidable manner of expressing himself, and it's quite logical, and it eviscerates the enemy, which operates on a illogic. Everything they operate on is based on twisting words and perverting them. Yeah, right now in the chat room he has expressed something about hope there's no more schisms, but that since he's been observing long enough, I'm just putting it into more of a perspective for our listeners, who we always have new listeners, and even those that have been listening long enough, they may not know of a way to express what they're experiencing. And if you really take a look at what we have experienced, again, Aristides and Brendan can probably articulate this most decisively, but particularly Brendan, because it's been around for so long. None of these have been schisms because that would imply, as in a political or religious sense, basically a doctrinaire dispute where somebody schismatically severs because they have a different interpretation of the basic idea that brought you together in the first place. That's never happened here. We simply have people who come in, they sabotage everything, they mess everything up, they scare away as many people as possible, they insult people outright, like Daniel Arola did, scare them outright, like Jameson Reese did, and ultimately, like Peter Moon, they come on and just waste everybody's time for as long as he possibly could. Peter Moon would come on here, and he would just drone and rave for hours, and then suddenly attack myself, and then all of this was tolerated. He would sabotage every time I was talking by just keyboarding violently. There's no other word for it. He would just keyboard. It was as if, to tell you the truth, nobody keyboards like that. If you've ever heard him keyboard, it would take like I'd have to like, what I'll do right now is I'll close the battery off. So I'm switching off my keyboard right now so that I don't mess up the controls. But he would keyboard like this. You'd hear that in the back. Nobody keyboards like that. There's no way you can keyboard like that, because that level of force where it's literally audible and that's immediate, where you're just like hammering away at the keyboard. He wasn't really typing. He wasn't looking things up. He wasn't writing. And we know this for a fact because he would never have notes on what I said. When I would express about something or articulate something, later on he wouldn't remember it, or he'd say, when did you speak about this? So he wasn't even listening. Now, Brendan, I believe, is saying he was probably using the oldest keyboard because he was cheap, those 1990s clunky ones. That's possible. That wouldn't explain the speed. He's not a typist. He's not a stenographer. He's not somebody who was trained in that. If you've ever seen him in a more... I've seen him on Skype when I was on calls with him, and he would not keyboard like that. Those sounds would only be there when I was speaking. Then he would start in on that. That maniacal punching of the keyboard. And I believe that all he did was he did what I'm just doing right now, which is he would switch the keyboard off and just start pounding at it like that, just because he's psychotic. I honestly believe that's what he was doing, like a monkey. Because, again, nothing was produced by what he was doing. He wasn't taking notes. He wasn't looking things up, because you wouldn't need to keyboard that radically, that maniacally, and that continuously nonstop to look up things like he was looking up, which was always on Wikipedia. All he did was go to Wikipedia. It wouldn't take that kind of effort to do that. But all of this was part of his intent. He was simply following orders, which was to sabotage the program and then not produce the books. When the first book he produced, there was no advertising for it. And then finally he just dragged on for another 3 to 5 years saying, we're going to get this second book out, and then said the book's not coming out. As he severed. So he just, pretty much went into a spiraling behavior pattern, and then did what he did. Okay. So all of this is like assigned. It's not like a person, there's no normal person who would do this. Nobody's going to work for 5 years, produce a manuscript, and then basically say, okay, the book's not coming out. It's this is just somebody who's assigned. Their entire job was to do nothing but set up ambush after ambush, which is what he did with his interviews. And of course, I tolerated all of these transgressions simply because I'm trying to get the book out. And but then he said in the end, well, the book's not coming out. And were it not for Aaron Tice, we never would have even gotten the manuscript. So, and then when we got the manuscript, we found out what he was doing was writing something completely different and had nothing to do with myself. He was going to take my story and subvert it by publishing his own story, in which would all of the chapters would overwhelm my own chapters, because he had more chapters for himself than he did dedicated to the topics I was discussing. That was pretty much what it was going on there. So Douglas Mark says, hey, Heather, and he's joined us. Eric Cradle says, hey, folks, and Deep Space Pilots. It says, I'm still here, buddy, since coast to coast. Thanks, George Nori. Haha, he says that sarcastically with a melting face. Yeah, so then JACKSTAR says, I'm an anomalous strategic resource with strict loyalties to the U.S. Constitution, monotheism, and the abolishment of every form of tyranny over the mind of man. Consequently, I get bad press. And he says, I'm so touched to hear all that. Thank you. We can do an interview next week, maybe, dependent on OOURT, OOURT. Sure, always willing to do that. And then he says, autonomous HK entities empowered by archons from various bases located in the rings of Saturn are very persistent enemies, and I hope that their days of ascendancy are over. AI-powered robo-armies. Okay, maybe he's just saying this in a kind of satire. Then he says, Heather Holman, I think so. When Heather says, is George Norrie still alive? He says, I think so. He says, I hope so. I love George Norrie. I really do. He despises me probably. So cute. Tota's Dorbs. Let's just put it this way. So JACKSTAR can be hard to follow. But yeah, so George Norrie is obviously a gatekeeper, and he certainly doesn't want anything of substance to come out. And so Heather Holman says, are archons the ant or alien insects? And she puts a little Saturn emoji. And JACKSTAR says, Heather Holman, it varies and can depend on one's perspective of their reality. Not every person meshes with their planes of influence directly. Some people think they don't even exist, which is cute. Okay, so such having been read, I'll try to acknowledge everyone. And Heather Holman says, I saw them once. Thank you, Heather. That's Heather's seen quite a bit. And that would be an interesting story. Holly has joined us. So, dear Holly, Heather, ladies first. Both of you say hello to our listeners, and grand evening to you both.
Hi, listeners.
Hi everybody.
Yeah.
Hi, Jack
Heather.
and chat.
Hi, our sweeties. Yeah.
Hi, Holly.
Hi.
Okay. Yeah. Yes, and that was lovely. Thank you. That was so cute. And with that, Brendan Zogit, say hello, and maybe you can start by sharing the story of our recent adventure together. So, Brendan Zogit and I had a recent rendezvous, and nothing romantic about it, I assure you. But we certainly, we did the tour, the Presidio tour. This is the third time that I've done this with someone. And it gets easier each time. And, of course, it becomes just a bit more productive, I feel. And in the case of Peter Moon, of course, it was all, as is obvious by his abandoning the project, he basically, it was a useless, an exercise in futility. But with Sammy Romero and with Brendan Zogit, it was productive. And Sammy Romero, by the way, I do want people to know, it is his birthday Eve day, will be his birthday after midnight. And we will wish him such. And he also took the tour, and it'd be interesting to have him come on tonight if he can, to compare his experience with that of Brendan Zogit. And so Brendan, maybe you could go a bit into our adventure and how you could start off by the fact that as you went home, you were tailed all the way to fucking Marin County. Yeah.
Oh yeah, greetings. Yeah, so yeah, we did that. We did the tour. Pretty spooky stuff. We saw the cemetery too. Oh. That was interesting.
Yes.
Yeah, that whole fucking Presidio is haunted as fuck.
Yes.
But it was cool to get the lowdown and put a, I'd been there before, but to have it like in line with what you've revealed just made it way more visceral and, frankly shocking.
Thank you.
All those parts that were there that we pointed out. And yeah, where do I start with that?
When you finally saw the library,
yeah.
What did how did that strike you? Was it like smaller than you thought it might be, or larger, or how was it in your imagination compared to what you encountered?
Oh no, it was pretty on brand, but I'm familiar with like municipal libraries. That's probably why.
Okay.
I grew up in that shit.
Okay.
But I think when you say like if you're going as per like a normal military base, quote unquote, or like a, you know, like something that's more out here, it's like much smaller. But you know, that region or the Presidio is very different when it comes to military stuff.
Yeah.
You know, first of all, it actually looks nice. Like it was designed, you know, early in the American history and late in Spanish history here. So it has like, you know, different layout than like a normal military base. Like if I were to think of like a normal military library, it would be like probably some like corrugated metal shed thing. That's what I would have imagined. Like if I didn't know better, that's what I would have imagined like a library looking like. But in this case, yeah, it was more of like almost like a municipal library with a lot more styling. And yeah, it was small. Of course, it was smaller than you would expect. But like I said, I knew about libraries before. So just because I'm from California, I know how the small libraries are. So I kind of had that image. But I didn't realize the proximity it was to where all the children were.
Yes.
And how that all lined up, that it made sense that you had to deal with that on a daily basis because it was so close to the where the children were. So that was interesting. And yeah, and there were underground, I don't know how else to explain it, catacombs.
Thank you. The tunnels that I spoke
to the
of.
Library.
Yes.
Yeah, attached to the library, like you could visibly see it from there. So like yeah, there's like metal grates and visibly you could see underneath the library, as in like a room underneath it, not a crawl space, like an actual standing room.
Yes. Thank you.
Which presumably went further than we could imagine. It was probably sealed off.
Oh,
just
yes.
Like just like the tunnels that they spoke of over in Marin.
Yes.
The Marin headlands, where when I was younger, they said, yeah, these are literally military tunnels that go all the way to the Presidio that they had to seal off because people were getting murdered in satanic rituals. Literally what they told us when we were younger. Not directly, I just overheard them talking, you know, like amongst themselves, like the park rangers and all that.
Yeah.
So, you know, they told us not to go near it, essentially, is what they were telling the parents not to go near it because of that reason, because they were like recent murders and it subsequently was sealed up. And yeah, so there's evidence of those tunnels. You know, obviously they're not in use anymore, but they were there. So that was interesting to have that confirmed. Also pretty sketchy, to say the least. Let's see what else. Yeah, and I saw the you know, the region of the broken circle. That was fascinating.
Where the broken circle in blood had been traced out. Yes.
Yeah, we basically, what would be the word for it? We did a walking tour of the night of the broken circle or something.
Yes. Yes, we walked around, and how were your sneakers after that? I was wearing the high platform, so I was protected from all that shit, but the ground was just seething with dog shit and mud and animal scat, varmint scat, as my dad used to call it, of various kinds of animals that were just, I've never seen so much shit before in all my life around the library. It's like, it's really gone to shit in the most literal sense. Very bizarre. I don't know if that really struck you, but they don't have groundskeepers. That's why something's gone. Right. You know, whereas before the military,
they basically just mow the grass and that's it. Yeah,
yeah,
what it looked like.
Yeah, and so
well, it didn't really affect my shoes. I'm like usually running around barefoot and shit in grass, so I could like manage that stuff. That's not a big deal.
Okay, all right.
My shoes were unharmed. Let's say.
All right, because it was so wet and the mud. I mean, honestly, without my platforms, I wouldn't have done the walk, really, to tell you the truth, on wet ground like that. When I went with Peter, or rather Vinny Barbaric, we'll call the demon by the real name, even though he's not a demon that dignifies him. Rather just call him out by the real name instead of his criminal alias. And Samuel Romero, both days it was quite sunny, so it was total opposite. Where when I went with you,
we got the full. We got the full. San Francisco experience, the fog and all that shit.
Yes, definitely. And and in terms of what else comes to mind with that is, oh yes, and of course we had to go down to San Rafael, and when it came to all of that, things worked out well as they could. We'll keep people updated, of course, but we have to maintain a certain level of secrecy about it in terms of scheduling and whatnot for personal security reasons. But we were monitored all the way anyway. You could tell them about the Waymos, just a nonstop river of Waymos. Which, by the way, for those of you who don't know, in the old days, those little spinning, you know, most of you may not even know what a Waymo is. Honestly, I keep forgetting that every city in the world does not have these driverless robotic cars. But San Francisco is seething with them, but especially my street. For no apparent reason, they circuit up and down my street. There might be some rationale for it if you were to pursue it and ask the company. They might say, oh, it's a convenient slot because it's not necessarily that well traveled or trafficked. That's bullshit. There's trucks that have to park there because of the restaurants. So the restaurants have to load up on supplies. So trucks are parking on that street to load up the restaurant supplies. So we've got bars not only on both corners, one corner right there on Hyde Street and Green Street, but also on Green Street where it meets Larkin Street is another restaurant. And then we have, of course, some bars up on Hyde Street itself. So there's plenty of traffic for a... Yeah.
But the actual route those things were taking, it was like nowhere near any restaurants.
Thank you.
Very strange.
Thank you.
Like it was going the opposite direction of any restaurants or shops or anything.
Well, they weren't stopping.
They just...
Yeah. Go on.
Yeah, they were just going constantly through on your street.
Yeah.
So
like they were like sharks.
Dozens.
Like sharks
Literal
circling.
dozens.
Yeah, like sharks circling you know, a boat.
And not a single person, like it wasn't like a hailed taxi where there's someone in it. It was just like the AI was just kept circling. Yeah, it was bizarre.
Yeah. So JACKSTAR says
I saw that, yeah.
Yeah, JACKSTAR says I've never heard of a Waymo. Is it the Robotaxi in the first Total Recall movie? No, because that would imbue it with a sense of personality, and that was, of course, the talking robot.
Those actually work.
Yeah, those actually are portrayed as working in the films. Yeah, but by the way, Heather brings up earthquakes rocking Santorini. Is that in the United States, or the Northeast earthquakes that you referenced?
That's Greece.
Oh, Greece. Okay. Thank you for sharing that, honey. And but in terms of
200 earthquakes in 48 hours.
Wow.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's
yeah. Well, there's an active volcano on that island.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah. Well, when it comes to the Waymos, the best thing to look up would be the Google mapping cars. So we used to have Google map cars that would have a spinning top of what looked like a ridiculous hat on top of the car. It was this kind of circular thing that looked kind of like a rotary fan, and it would spin around as this kind of light would spin through it to kind of like LADAR, light and radio detection, laser and radar detection. It would be like a LADAR kind of scheme. And what we used to do, because every time they would take photographs on the street of a anything to match with Google Maps, like you want to see what it looked like at the street level, then so every time one passed by, my gang brothers and I would flick our fingers at it, because they have to cancel the picture at that point, because they can't load, they're not allowed to load people flicking their fingers on their stupid map sites. And so we would just do that out of malevolence towards Google every time we saw one of these stupid, you know, Google mapping cars go by. You don't see those anymore. Instead, what you see now are these Waymos that look exactly like the old Google mapping cars used to. They look like the Google mapping cars. But he says, okay, I still never heard of them. I'll try to Google it up. I've been hermiting for the last several years. Yeah, so, yeah, but at any rate, they're going by my house. It's extraordinarily suspect, but it was backed up by human surveillance.
Waymo is owned by Alphabet.
Okay, yeah. Google?
Which is the company
that's right.
The conglomerate that is Google.
That's right. Alphabet's part of Google. That's correct.
Yeah.
So that
it's like the umbrella corp of those people.
That's right. That's right. So it's Google cars. They're basically Google mapping cars. Is what they are. It's that they're automated. Yeah, and
yeah, exactly. They did enough of the human-driven ones to where the Waymos can actually drive themselves around, and then they just take new pictures as they go.
Yeah,
that's probably what's happening.
Now, Holly has been there to my home, so she has an idea of what it's like in front of my home. But you can describe what you saw with the pole that's there for purely occult reasons, the stake that's buried in front of my home, and the quote-unquote magic telephone pole, the telephone pole. You saw them both, so you can confirm what they're like.
Yeah, I saw them.
And the ambience of the houses across the street, the abandoned houses across the street. And you know why they're abandoned? Because the U.S. government has probably purchased them.
They're haunted as fuck.
Well, it's not just that. The U.S. government has probably purchased them so they can basically station at some point either a sniper or surveillance, somebody with a camera or somebody with a sniper rifle.
Yeah, and there's one that had like a really dark aura, and it was completely abandoned, but there was brand new, what would you call those things, doorbells on attached to them. It was bizarre.
Yes.
So that's probably the case. They just bought them and they just keep them ready for, you know, like you said,
at some point
people just to go.
But tell them about the guy, an older man who, unlike young people, you always see young people sitting on the steps because they're using their cell phones and they don't want to disturb their roommates. But this guy's just sitting on the steps, and he's not a smoker, and he's just staring at my, you know, sitting across the street staring at my home just all day.
Yeah, he wasn't vaping. He wasn't vaping or anything. Yeah, some strange, there's no other way to put it, dark and swarthy fellow.
Wait, so when you guys saw each other, there was somebody stalking you guys?
Yes! Oh, not just
I got tailed out of the city without after I dropped him off. I got tailed out, and not only did I get tailed off of Green Street, but I lost that person or whatever was tailing me, and then later on when I was on the highway, it was right behind me, the same car. So they followed me all the way past Marin. Yeah, that's a long way. And by the way, T-Tank Barry saw the guy sitting across the street and warned me about him before. He says, man, you better watch it. There's some guy sitting across the street who's not a smoker. He's not out there because he's smoking. And he's an older guy, doesn't look like he belongs, and he's just sitting there staring at your apartment. But aside from that, yeah, I believe that probably the Waymos were relaying your position to that car, which found you again. None of this is paranoia. I mean, Brendan saw it. He saw what it was like. Just the cars going up and down the street. He's on mute right now. I don't know if he's at work. But when he can come back on, Brendan, you can continue with the adventure. But certainly, Holly, what you saw was the pre-stake days. And you saw... Yeah, I'm here. Yeah. So, but I would want Holly to kind of exchange with you what happened with the telephone pole with her, because I remember years ago what she said was kind of a more extreme experience, was that basically she took a photograph and essentially the telephone pole bit back. She took a photograph of it, and it after that, her cell phone pretty much shut down. And there we are. John Doe has got the picture of the Waymo. Yes, we've got him giving us some Waymo photos. And Neuro, he's asking about this Neuro company. If you could take a look at that photograph, Brendan, he says, is that another autonomous company? He's wondering about that. He's seen these Neuros. So I don't know if you recognize that, Brendan. But definitely there was tons of them. There was, on my way on through the Bay Bridge, there was like some other company. So they all get tested there in SF in the Greater Bay Area. So because that's where they're headquartered.
Well, not only that, it's because San Francisco's landscape is so extreme. This is why they go to San Francisco to film car chases. They figured that if these cars can function on San Francisco's landscape without, killing people, then they should be functional anywhere. Of course, Brendan will argue, well, you can rule out the concept that they don't kill people because they seem determined to try and shut you down at least. You can relate that experience when you were in the city with your friend. By the way, John Doe, who is T-Tank Barry, said when he saw that son of a bitch across the street, he said he stared him down. So thank you, T-Tank. I mean, you know, let's harass the people who are harassing us. And he says, yes, he was definitely spying on Douglas. Yeah, and so...
Did you see him?
Yeah,
Did he see T-Tank Barry?
Oh, he must have seen
Oh, he saw everything.
Yeah.
He saw everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that dude wasn't there when
He was
I pulled
outnumbered,
up.
huh?
Yeah. Oh, whoa, no. T-Tank Barry saw him at a different time where it was just T-Tank Barry and him, and T-Tank Barry stared him down solo. In our case, we weren't bothering to give him the time of day, but we certainly noticed him sitting there for no goddamn good reason. And he wasn't a laborer. There are young, swarthy ethnics who are just working at the restaurants, but they're young and they're you know, buff. They're young and they're buff. This guy was just like an old, kind of like an old man, but you know he didn't live there because he wasn't. He's not one of the people who owned the buildings. It was like almost like.
Well, I looked at the building, so
Yeah.
the side he was sitting on was the side that was unoccupied.
Yes.
The other side had plants and whatnot.
Yes.
So he was sitting on a side where no one was living.
Yes.
So that was what made it more odd.
Yeah. Well, or obvious.
Was he dressed like you guys?
Innocuously. Yeah. How would you say he was dressed? It's pretty innocuous. Just like.
Was he dressed like you guys? Was he like trying to imitate you?
No.
Oh, okay.
He was just some rando.
But by the way, Heather's question is important because what Heather has experienced has been a form of gang stalking known as street theater, where at times you will walk down a street and you will be taunted by groups of people who are all dressed in the same color, or they all make the same hand motions. Like if you see somebody, like you're walking down the street and you see repeated people jerking their hand up and down like they're doing the psychic pump or something. That this is known as street theater.
What I meant was, were they trying to imitate or look like you? Because a lot of, that's the new thing, is they try to like mimic you, and then they'll like say something to you that was you posted on Facebook, so it was like one of your quotes or something.
Well, nobody could look like me. and tell her, Brendan. Tell her, Brendan. Nobody could look like me.
I meant more like Brandon. Was he wearing the same colors?
Yeah, I was about to say.
Yeah.
Like, looking like Douglas, you'd be like, you know, everyone would notice you. And then, yeah, it would be obvious. It would be too obvious. But as for looking like me, I mean, I dress innocuously. I don't really stand out.
No, this guy couldn't look like Brendan because Brendan doesn't look like some swarthy ethnic older man with nothing to do in life. You know?
Yeah, dude looked sketch. Like he had like, there was like the classic like bags under the eyes. You know, it was like classic sketch. You know. Yeah. Like someone.
So are you supposed to be carrying weapons or something to defend yourself from these people?
Well, obviously we wouldn't say such a thing out loud.
Yeah, come on.
But honey, here's what's funny.
I'm just wondering. I mean, we have that right.
Yeah, but tell her about the neighbor of mine who was so sketched out by you. So she's seen a lot of shit to throw her off.
Yeah. So to be fair, I was parked illegally, like standing out, like literally military style, standing outside the car. So she was getting concerned. Some lady was just working from her house or whatever on her laptop, and she looked super sketched out. And then she disappeared into her house and then kept opening the basement door for what, I don't know, securing her basement or whatever. So I told Doug, I was like, yeah, dude, I sketched out your neighbor or something.
Yeah.
And he said, oh, she's fine.
Yeah, I just put this into context. To put this into
People
context.
People are weird.
Well, no.
I was being weird. She just, you know, she has her reasons, I'm sure.
Right. Well, here's what T-Tank Barry says. T-Tank Barry says, definitely he was spying on Douglas. I was dropping off cash at the mail slot, and he was leaning on a residence across the street on the uphill side. It was only too obvious what he was doing. He says everyone else is typically walking and minding their own business during the day. Yeah, people don't just stand and lean and
no one just sits around in that area. Definitely not.
Because there's no reason to. Well, for one thing, it's cold as fuck.
There's no park or anything. It's all shady. It's dark and cold and shit.
Yeah. And as John Doe, who is T-Tank Barry, says, this idiot was making a point to stare. Yeah, and believe me, it's probably for reasons like that the neighbor was sketched. She probably thinks she's already under surveillance, and it could possibly be that she is under surveillance by...
Yeah, there's a chance that he is her her stalker. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So that makes sense.
Yes. And but I do want people to know my neighbors.
Can I ask you something?
Sure.
Douglas?
Sure.
So when people do this, are they consciously doing it, or are they part of some like hive mind where they're sleeper people and they don't realize what they're doing?
Well, it's hard to tell. How can you tell? It's honestly somebody like Peter Moon. Was he so completely oblivious to his assignment that he's just like a programmed individual? There's an element of that with him. It's like 50-50 in his case. When we heard him, we all heard him, meaning certainly Aristides, Brendan Zogit, and a number of other people, but certainly Aristides and Brendan were both on the show with me when we all heard Peter Moon suddenly start monotonally repeating himself. My implant fell out. My implant fell out. And I finally told him, look, we heard you the first time. But he repeated it multiple times, and he wasn't talking about his fucking tooth. That's for sure. It's like, so obviously... that there was this element to him that's simply a programmed automaton, but there's other elements to him that are truly malevolent. And so he's just, with many people, it's like that. There's times when they lose track or they lose time and they blank out and they don't know they spent all day just staring across the street. And then there's times when they are malevolently trying to harass you. It's so it could go either way. There's no real way to tell, Heather. Not unless you were to stop and interrogate these people. And even then, you'd have to know what you're looking for. But I appreciate the question. Has this happened to you in that sense, or you've encountered people like this, Heather?
No, I just wonder about the hive mind, and I wonder if it's like all the people who are Catholic, or if there's like just some like source. Do these people realize what they're doing? Because nobody could be even paying them that much money to do it.
Oh, your point's well taken. Your point's well taken. You know, you know, it's you couldn't pay somebody enough, but they're products of a kind of a program. As I said before, these programs at an industrial scale churn out many damaged people that are malfunctioning, dysfunctioning in this manner. And our dear John Doe, who's T-Tank Barry, gave us basically some footage of there we are. My neighbor. Yes, my neighbor's ceiling. Yes. So just so people know, my neighbor and Brendan can help with this because he was standing facing my building. So when he was standing facing my building, I pointed out to him, the neighbor on the right, when you're facing my building, is the lady who was sketched by Brendan. The house on the left, the immediate left, is this dude who's like the Chinese version of Mr. Burns, who I've named before, and I don't really want to name him right now because I don't want people calling him and saying, hey, and having him turn around and get terrorized or something. Then again, of all people, he could probably handle it because he's really past the point of giving a shit. But at any rate, Cal, I'll call him Cal. He's Chinese. He looks like the Chinese version of Mr. Burns from The Simpsons. And he's in terrible shape, and he may be dying, but he was the guy who was trying to turn that building into the Winchester Mystery House for no goddamn good reason. Just constant construction and reconstruction on the inside of the building for no sane reason. It's just somehow that's why his body looks like shit, because he's like the typical American who, to them, their sense of identity or physical form is either their home or their car or both. And so their body goes to shit because they're putting all their energy into maintaining their home or their car. He's like that. But when it comes to the house on the other side where my neighbor lives, there's a horrible story behind it where originally it was all Chinese, and it was owned by a Chinese family whose son married a Vietnamese wife. And the Vietnamese and Chinese cultures do not get along. And they argued like cats and dogs. They fought violently. And then finally, her Vietnamese brothers came in and they riddled that poor Chinese guy with machine guns. Just tore his body to ribbons with AK-47s. Just shot him until he was a gleaming mass of meat. And then afterwards, the feds moved in for a period of time till they were kicked out by reasons I've explained before, with the help of Rat Girl, who basically, you know, sent the rats in after them in waves, that a tsunami of rats that just tore their circuitry up and set the place on fire and ate the guys alive. That's after that, the government had to give it up because I reported to the county that squatters had rendered the place uninhabitable. So the county took over from the feds who had moved in, and then she bought it, and she's Argentinian, from Argentina. So they're probably all, shall we say, they've experienced what it's like to live in a police state. And she sells wine, and the basement is a temperature-controlled basement where she keeps the wine. So I believe she's very protective of that business that she runs out of her home. And she's got a whole family there, but she's definitely the brains. And it's all centered on her. And so when, you know, she's already got one guy maybe staring at her across the street, and then, you know, who may be from Argentina for all we know, or Latin America. And then Brendan shows up and is kind of parked out with his tinted windows, which he'll have to explain, the tinted windows. And then she naturally was stressed. But I waved at her when we got back to make certain she saw that Brendan was with me, and hopefully that sets her mind at ease. So Heather asks, what does Holly think about gang stalkers? Holly, respond if you would be so kind, and catch us up on whatever's going on with you, honey.
Well, a couple questions first.
Sure.
Are there still Ubers and Lyfts, or did Waymo run them out?
There's still Ubers, Lyfts, and taxis.
And taxis.
But,
okay.
yeah, but the Waymos are everywhere. But as Brendan will testify, and I'm sure T-Tank Barry can testify as well, you never see them with anybody in them. It's seldom I see passengers. Every once in a while I'll see a passenger on a Waymo. Once even saw a Waymo stop to let a passenger off. Though the cab driver I was with said, oh my God, why is he letting her off there? It was some kind of compromised position where the Waymo maybe could not parallel park or something. Maybe it was, or maybe she asked to be let off, but the cab driver did not feel she was being let off. It wasn't a dangerous neighborhood. He just felt that it was a compromised position to let somebody off in, that anyhow, for what that's worth. But otherwise, they're empty, but they run up and down my street like a river. It's like a mechanized, automated river of these Waymos up and down my street throughout the day. When I step outside my door, there's a good chance I'll see a fucking Waymo. So it's like they're doing surveillance on my street. There's no goddamn good reason for them to be going up and down my street. As Brendan Zogett will testify, when he was with me, they're just going up and down. It's just like Waymo's back, Waymo's forth. It's like, you know, anyhow. So here we are.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And
I wonder if that guy on the stoop runs up when he sees you leave and tries to fish out your mail from the slot.
Interesting. Interesting. Well, that's why I've got to be careful about that. But our man, T-Tank, thank God, he puts the money in deep. He throws it in to make certain nobody can do that. It's very difficult for somebody to try and reach in with their hand through the mail slot and not fuck themselves up. But such being said, you know,
yeah, I don't recommend doing that unless you want to get a bunch of tetanus shots and shit.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. So
that shit's rusty as hell.
Well, not only that, tell her, Brendan, tell everybody, Brendan, about my home is you could smell the mildew on me. Tell them about that.
It's it's moldering. I mean, it's on brand for Vampire Cavern. Yeah, that's for sure.
This is why when I go to the estates, I have to take all my clothes off and put them in a decontamination chamber and go through a decontamination process. Quite literally. People think I'm joking. But it's not to our terror.
I can see why.
Yeah, but, you know, what do you expect at a Silicon Valley type estate? This is what they do. I mean, Brian Johnson does that when he goes in and out every fucking minute, right? You know, but, you know, that's kind of the norm.
I think he does the Gattaca where he, like... where they like scrub his whole body and like they're like, you had 4 hairs shed today,
you know, and shit like that.
Oh my God, yeah.
And he has to he monitors every skin cell that falls off. And
shit. Man, he measures his turds. Okay, he's measuring the inches.
Literally.
Yeah, yeah. Poor son of a bitch.
They shouted him off stage recently.
Oh, tell us about this. Tell us about this.
Because he did that experiment with his son, the erection contest.
Yes, tell people about this.
And everyone was like, "You're sick, man." Well, I mean, what is there to say? It's just that's it. He said, "Oh, I have, 3 less erections than my son every year or every week or something." And everyone was like, "You're a sick bastard," like measuring,
Oh man.
comparing this to your son, you sick fuck, and all this. So, but to him, it's like it really is clinical. I don't want to give him too much credit, but I have a feeling he's that clinical that he wants to measure every variable. Like I don't know. It's not really defending him, but I don't know other way to put it. It's just.
Not to mention that he and his entire family are sharing blood with each other, but I would suspect,
that's worse.
Yeah,
I don't know why everyone...
It makes one suspect they're also sharing sperm. We won't go there, but it's like, how can you not suspect that, considering what you've just brought up, which was in print, by the way. Brendan saw this in print. This is you can look this up, people. It's not stuff we're not...
Yeah, no, he says it in a video. He just straight up says it.
Yeah.
He's all smiling and shit when he says it to you.
God, that's what makes it so creepy. That's what makes it so creepy. Is
because he thinks that means he's young. He's like, I have as many erections as an 18-year-old. So that to him, that's like I'm young.
Yeah. In other words, he's trying to make a point, but it's not like people appreciate the point. And because oh God, that's I'm so sorry. It's so pathetic. It's so awful, and it's like I don't know what to say. We'll go back to that later.
Definitely cringe.
It's cringe. It's cringe. Yeah, but hey, compare that to Peter Moon telling Marina Sarin, "You ought to get colonics. Come with me."
So now that you've described your horrible, experience, what were you wearing? Did you know that peanut butter could be also a lube?
Yeah.
For some reason?
Which is, by the way, I've retitled that episode "The Pedophile Meltdown." If people go back to the Marina Sarin episode, I've retitled it "The Pedophile Meltdown" for the last time he was on with us was with Marina Sarin. Yes. So
everyone download it before he gets it taken down.
Yeah. Yes. That's please do. And we all pray that Nemo joins us later. And Nemo, if you're out there, I do want to speak with you privately. And nothing negative, just concerned. Such having been said. So when you tell people what your impression was of the steak and the telephone pole. Your impression of these things across the street from
Well, I'd already driven by them before, but the steak was anomalous for sure. Yeah. Like the telephone pole, it's like pointed right at your house and shit, and it's full of danglies and dongles and Wi-Fi antennas, like just unnecessary amounts. And what I did confirm is that whatever construction they did recently, that was the only pole that had a new concrete slab.
Thank you. Yes.
So that was the pole they worked on when they shut your street down.
Yes.
I saw that.
Yes. Yes. And also that the steak is recent as well, that the steak was recently planted, comparatively speaking.
Yeah, and the steak is bizarre because it's like, first of all, it's a green pole. It's not a creosote pole. So I don't know what those are even for. That's not even a utility pole. That's like a telegraph line or something. Like it doesn't make any sense. It's almost like it's a military install. Yeah. Because I've never seen a green phone pole before, telephone or electric pole. Because usually they're like that brown creosote,
Yes. Yes.
But that one is green. It has the beveled edge to make it a stave. Yeah. And it's literally pointed right at your window.
Yes. Yes.
So.
Could it be some kind of show ceremonial pole?
Absolutely. But you tell her, Fred.
Sorry.
Whatever it is, it's unused. It's like brand new.
Yeah.
But it looks, so if you're just walking by it, it looks like it's hooked up to wires. But if you go directly underneath it, there's not a single thing hooked up to it. Yeah. Not even like it's not like a support beam or it's holding up, you know, like it's taking weight off the wires. No, it's completely bare.
How tall is it?
Just as tall as the other telephone poles around.
I see. I never
Yeah,
pictured
so it's
that.
bizarre.
Yeah, no, it's definitely a cult, honey. It's definitely a cult. It's meant to be the wooden stake through my heart, is what it's meant to symbolize. Yeah. It's there. It's implanted there to keep me in the crypt. It's and like he said, it's like a military telephone pole because it's painted like an olive drab from the old military days. Yeah. Yeah.
And the diameter is different. It's very odd. Like I've never seen a utility pole like that. Like it's not. You know, it doesn't fit the profile. Yeah.
And if George Knight were here, he would go into depth about how bizarre it was when they replaced the other telephone pole that Brendan saw when they shut down all the power on my street for well over a day, something like a day and a half.
On a holiday. On a federal holiday.
Yeah, Martin Luther King Day. Martin Luther King Day last year, as a matter of fact, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Something like that,
yeah. Yeah, overnight. Bizarre. Like George Knight would have said, any normal company would or utility would only do this in the daytime when it's safe. They would do it at set hours rather than doing it.
And it was storming. And it was storming. That's right.
That's right.
Yeah, it was just the whole thing was weird.
Yes.
But I confirmed it that it had been recently. The slab was new. The concrete around it was new. Yeah. Yeah.
And by the way, if you look in the text box, John Doe, T-Tank Barry has entered footage of the pole. There, Holly and Heather and Aristides, you can see it. The stake, it is there. It is connected to fucking nothing. It's just there. It's, yeah, very eerie, but like Brendan said, your average person would walk by and never give it a second thought because the city's so congested and they would assume it's connected to something, just walking underneath it because people never look up. But such having been said, so we were obviously surveilled throughout our rendezvous, and they just took Brendan off. So he'll be rejoining us in a few moments, hopefully. So there you go, Brendan. Did they knock you off again? They're knocking you off a lot tonight, I noticed, just like they did when you were talking to Marina.
It just... Yeah, if it's only when I'm talking on the air.
Yeah,
you know, of course.
Of course.
But yeah. But also, I don't think you mentioned it, but when we were actually traveling, the Google or whatever my navigation was took us to this like Stepford Wives neighborhood.
Tell them about that! Oh my God, it took us on these bizarre circuits. Yes, tell them.
Yeah. So I put in the correct address because I had it, everything was prepped for us to just go straight to the doctor. And it took us past the doctor, past the exit, into a whole nother neighborhood that was like this loop of identical houses, but each quadrant was painted different colors. And it was just this weird neighborhood that was like self-contained, like Stepford Wives or something. It was bizarre.
Well, there's no restaurants, no public facilities. It's just like pure residential. And the neighborhoods were divided by a color code, like they were a housing project for white upper middle class. But how they lived, I said, how do these people live? They have to have everything delivered to themselves, so they have to go on long shopping expeditions because there's no mall.
Yeah.
There's nothing.
The nearest supplies was like you had to get on the freeway. It was a really weird neighborhood. Yeah.
And just bizarre.
It's abnormal.
But they took us through the whole thing. Yeah, and so it was like...
I couldn't navigate out of it. It was like sending us in a loop over and over, and I had to get back onto the main road, just self-navigation.
Yeah, like a Twilight Zone episode. And it was very... how would I say it? It was very bizarre because I was already sleepy. I didn't sleep much the night before. And so it was almost dreamlike, but it was not in a pleasant sense or a nightmare sense, just drab. It was Edward Scissorhands, like Edward Scissorhands neighborhood surrealism. Yes.
Yeah, it was surreal. It was definitely weird. Yeah. And the colors they chose were odd. It was like lilac and these weird pastels.
Thank you. Thank you.
You normally don't paint neighborhoods anyway.
Yeah, yes, thank you. I couldn't have gotten that out without you. And he had these pleasant words for them. He said, "Oh, look, lilac, pastel." And I said, you know, or you know, what was it, the term for the gray you used? It's like cloud gray or something. I said, looks more like dead dove to me. Dead dove, puke, and mauve. Yeah.
Lavender. I said it was lavender. And then you said, like, it looks like a cadaver or something crazy.
Yes, a dead dove. I called it dead dove for
Yeah.
and puke and dead dove and various other like very faded colors. They're all faded. It's like, you know.
Yeah, they were weird.
Yeah, just like they were not faded with age. They were painted in such light colors, and yeah, just awful. And
yeah, so it was anomalous for sure.
Yeah, and it was the kind of place where you can't walk that neighborhood. It's not like you could walk that neighborhood. You might take your dog for a walk and go a little bit, but then come back. But it's not a walking neighborhood, that's for sure. And
and it was nowhere near the doctor. Right?
Yeah,
totally on the other side of the freeway. It was weird.
Yeah,
like why would it even take us there? I have no idea.
Oh, because that would have fucked us up if we hadn't left early. Remember, your instinct was we better leave early and just go straight to San Rafael because we don't know what's going to happen. You know, with all these people staring and all the Waymos pushing by, and you know, just it was just you knew we had to get out of the city because
yeah. Well, of course, the second. Anytime I go to SF now, like after, you know, whatever recent events, it's like it always does some weird anomalous thing where this time it took me right past Q's house on the way to yours.
Yes! Tell them about that.
Yeah, normally it would have me take like, I guess, what would it be? It would be like First Street. I would get off, like last time I got off on a totally different street and then went straight to Lombard. But this time it took me up Pine onto Leavenworth. Like literally in front of Michael Aquino's house.
Yeah. Yes.
And I was telling Doug that I was like, it literally took me by Q's house for whatever reason, with no explanation. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it knew I was going to visit you or something.
Yeah. Yeah. And you got to see this, Brendan. Yeah.
Yeah. Like I had to pay respects first or some shit.
Yeah.
Some shit like that.
Yeah. Got to go by the old man first, Brendan. And it was so there we have that. And what about with the so let's tell our listeners.
And then even on our way out, it took us back around and put us back on Leavenworth. It was like for no reason at all.
Yes.
Like what the fuck.
And that's when you picked up the guy following you. What kind of car was it? This car that was tailing you.
It was like a Dodge Challenger.
Okay. Yeah.
It was a Dodge. It was an American car, like classic Fed car.
Yeah.
It was like a souped up Dodge Challenger, like maybe mid 2012s or something up to like 2018, like that time. You know, I know cars very well, so I could pick it out immediately what it was. But the thing is, they had their lights off in the rain, but the halo lights were on. Yeah. Like the marker lights.
Yeah.
They like the inside halo lights. So those were yellow. And that's how I identified it. Because they were tailing me with no lights on. But they didn't realize that their marker lights were on or something. So I immediately knew it was behind me when I was on the one, and I was able to, you know, block it out with another car, and we, you know, because I have a little bit of driving skill, so I was able to get ahead of it and cut out, and then eventually it lost me past Marin. So, but it was like it had followed me off like all the way down Green, like all the way back to the Presidio. It was like tailing me that whole time. Even when I stopped to like navigate, like I stopped in random streets just to wait, and it still was behind me. So I was like, oh, this is weird.
To say the least.
Then when yeah. So I didn't really pay much attention.
The other word would be menacing and sinister would probably be more appropriate, but go on.
Yeah, sinister as fuck. But anyway, so when I went past the Presidio, it disappeared, and I was like, oh, okay, it was probably just some local yokel or something. And then basically, you know, you just kind of, you autopilot, and when I was on the freeway, I was autopiloting. then right around Sausalito, I looked in my rearview mirror, and it was right on my tail, the same car with the same lights, like directly behind me. And that's when I was like, oh shit, I'm actually getting tailed, you know? So I took evasive maneuvers and did what I had to do. But so, yeah, there you go.
Oh my God. And so tell us, you know what they say, you should never meet your heroes. And not that I'm a hero to Brendan Zoga. He wakes up cursing me every morning. Fuck you, Douglas. God damn you, Douglas. But such having been said. So when you met me, what was your overall, you know, takeaway impression? Was it what you expected, or something different, or what was different that you might have expected? I told Brendan, of course, he looked a lot better than I thought he would, because the one time he had the camera flash jump, you know, jump scare us with turning on when he was at work. And unlike, of course, all the crazies like Daniel Arola or Ian West, he didn't mean for it to be at his waist level. It happened to be in that position because he had placed it down while he was at work. So we had this, like, a huge view of him from the pelvic up, and he added about 20 pounds. So I thought he was going to look like Fatty Arbuckle.
Yeah, it was so unflattering. Yeah. It was so...
but he doesn't.
It was totally unflattering.
Yeah, he looks much better than that. And but so he doesn't look like Ian West at all, thank God. But yeah, so, and on your side,
yeah, I mean, as far as meeting Doug, I mean, it's like, it was everything I expected. It wasn't really like, it's like meeting a vampire that also happens to, like, you know, live in a crypt. I mean, it was like I said, like I told you, it was on brand. It was nothing anomalous at all. It's like, you know. And let's just put it this way, everything you've been saying is true, because there's no way to fake that shit.
Thank you.
Your house is a moldering crypt. There's no way to fake it. I saw it, so, you know, just the signs are there. You know, it's like when you shake the magic 8-ball. You know, all signs point to yes. That's, yeah, everything is, yeah, there's nothing anomalous about, you know, you as a being.
Yes. And
it all makes sense. Yeah.
There we are. So then we went down and saw the doctor, who we're not going to name because we don't want her to get harassed, but she has an extremely very hard to identify name. It seems to be both Asian, Indian, Hindi, or Muslim simultaneously. It seems to, and she might have had maybe a Muslim parent and a Asian Indian parent, who knows, but she's very chestnut brown, beautiful. But yeah, you take it from there, Brendan.
She was stunning. She was stunning, but it's like she definitely hated her parents or something. they forced her to be a doctor or something, so she hates them. That's what it sounded like.
Oh, you're making me choke. Oh my God. It's well, we can try and describe what happened. How I tried to impress her and how I blew that.
I mean, do you really want me to go there? I mean, I could just straight up say it, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's funny as hell, really. It's, yeah, straight up.
Yeah, Doug's a piece of shit. He was like, so, I brought someone to speak your language to you. And she's like, this is an American hospital. And I speak English. And I was like, Doug, she speaks English. What the fuck? And then I left him in there to get chewed out by her. And she was like not impressed. I was gonna start talking to her in, you know, whatever language she spoke, but she wouldn't tell us because she was all pissed off. So I was like, here, look, you deal with him, you know, and that's what happened basically. She wasn't impressed. Spoiler alert.
Then she sent the dude to you to pick me out of the room so that I would get some adult supervision. She didn't trust me to find the elevators by myself.
Yeah, literally. They were like, he needs your help, and I'm like, what's going on? Like, you can't find the door or something? Or... And then the guy wouldn't answer me. He was just like, just come in here.
Yeah. He keeps bumping the door with his ass.
I thought you caused an incident or something. I was like, oh, great. It's like, what the fuck did he do while he was in there? Yeah, so there you go. That was what happened.
Well, I think what happened is because she's chestnut brown, I think she's gotten too much of all of her life while she was growing up. When you go to hospitals, or you're working in the medical complex, the medical industrial complex, when you're working in the medical industry, the reality is the overwhelming majority of incoming students are from different countries. There's very, less and less American students becoming doctors. So she was probably born and raised an American, meaning that she was probably born in America. She was American acculturated. And I think what she suffered from, this would be my stereotype or what I would assume, what I think she suffered from is all the while she was going through medical school, probably a lot of her peers innocently asking, so where are you from? Right. And that can probably just become maddening. I'm from here, you idiot. That would be something she probably wanted to say. So by the time that I show up and say, hey, my man Brendan here can speak Hindi or Urdu. Which language would you like? Yeah, at that point she said, we're in America, God damn it. And so there you go with that. But other than that, I think it went swimmingly.
Right. Yeah, it was fine. They gave you like they just basically said, oh, he's some crazy old veteran. Like they just they just blew it off. They were like, fuck it, he's fine.
Yes. By the way, of course, Brendan did leave during the time that I got into a clinical discussion with her because, of course, I wouldn't want her to think that, we're some kind of civic rights union couple or something like that. But no, she didn't have that impression at all.
I made it clear that I was there today.
Yeah.
I was just the supervisor.
That's right. The
they probably thought you were
Why did you go to the doctor?
Because he's
now we all want to know.
She's my plastic surgeon.
Oh,
okay.
You're still going through that, huh?
Well.
Yeah, with the nose. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, due to the assassination attempt that went awry. Now he's going to be coming out fresh, instead of damaged like they wanted.
Oh my God. Yeah. Yes, they were trying to suck my brains out with the no fault of Dr. Epstein. So what happened was that because of something happening during the head and neck surgery, shall we say, procedure. Well, it's a surgery, so you kind of downgrade it when you say procedure. It was actually surgery that was very close to both the brain and the eyes, so it's relatively high risk. But Dr. Epstein performed stunningly the surgery. For some reason, just for our new listeners, my nose came out shaped like a Z, and it was speculated that too much cartilage was removed in order to make room for their entry into the other sinus cavity. They were going from one side of the nose to hit the right sinus cavity, the right side of my face, where the inflamed tissue was, and remove that from inside of my skull. So then what happened was the nose...
And you were awake?
No, thank God. Of course not. Oh my God. I would hope not.
I thought you were.
Oh my God. No. But what happened was that the nose healed remarkably. It reformed itself to the point where Dr. Epstein even asked me, did you forcibly reset your nose? And I said, no, I followed your advice, which he told me, your nose is my property until we get you to reconstructive surgery. Don't touch it. And I said, no, of course I followed your advice. My nose is your property till we get to reconstructive surgery. But then what happened was we went to reconstructive surgery and we agreed that my nose is no longer an issue. But we are making plans to deal with something else. So we'll keep that secret for at least now.
I won't tell.
But that's very nice. But you say she did a really good job on the surgery.
Yes. My quality of life has improved by orders of magnitude after her surgery. I do want people to know that what happened, I don't know if you heard the story,
I did.
Holly. So yes. So it turned out there was one guy who was there who was highly suspect, told me I had something wrong with one of my arteries that I certainly had never been told. And so he was making shit up, and that was already suspect. But by that time, I was going under. And he said it before the rest of the team arrived. He told me alone when other members of the team were not there, but they had already given me something to begin to make me receptive to the anesthetic. So I was already fading by the time he had said that. But it was one of the last things I heard, and potentially would have been the last thing I ever heard in my life had something went truly wrong. My understanding was something happened where he was dismissed from the team during the middle of the operation, like he was apparently attempting something. But,
good Lord.
Yeah, but as a result, Kaiser's was willing to cover me with insurance for reconstructive surgery. So there we are. So now that we have access to reconstructive surgery.
And you did have to wait.
You mean until it healed? Well, I had to wait.
So that's why it's come around again. So yeah, I really did want to know
what
the outcome of this was going to be. Okay.
Well, we waited 6 months because no matter whether the nose healed or not, you want to wait 6 months because you don't want it to go into surgery too soon.
No, I get it.
Yeah. But it turned out that it healed, and we are in agreement, the doctoress and myself, that that's not the issue to deal with. Instead, we decided to focus on something else. So, it nevertheless.
So what'd you have to do? Sleep on your back for 6 months?
Back. Oh, what? Where do you think I sleep on? You think I sleep on my stomach, or?
Oh, curled up fetal like everybody else. Shivering.
In a sense, I do that. The way I sleep is I sleep on my sides to avoid bed sores, because the bed is a very dangerous place to be. And senior citizens, you learn when you're caring for senior citizens, you got to make them sleep on their sides, because if they sleep on their backs, they become vulnerable to bed sores, which will kill you. And
horrible.
So I do sleep on my sides, but I sleep with my legs spooned around these body length pillows that I have on either side. So
got it.
Yeah, so that's how I sleep. So in a sense, it's a curled it's spooning. It's called a spooning position. So so I do that. I switch from side to side throughout the night in my sleep. But so that was a nice intimate thing to share with the world.
But it didn't mess up your nose, you know. I'm just wondering.
My sleeping position? Oh, you mean, was that what messed my nose up?
No, I'm saying, what did she tell you couldn't do?
Oh,
should do?
Oh, well, basically, just whatever you do, don't fuck with my nose. That's basically what she told me.
Well,
honey, you know, there's two factors as to why my nose healed that you know of. One is the nanoplasma, and the other is my vampiroid bloodline. So my being a quarter vampire and the nanoplasma together likely is the reason why my nose miraculously healed, because you know, the way my nose was, there's no way with a normal human being that could have reset itself on its own. That's just impossible. It would require like a stent that they have for broken noses for the average person.
The thing you wear, I've seen them.
Yeah, at the least. If not reconstructive surgery, as they thought it was bad enough where it needed surgery. That shows you how bad it was, and where Kaiser was willing to cover it. But no, it just healed, like to the point where she asked if I reset it. So there we are. And and
do you feel like the infection is staying good? You know, the infection's good and gone?
Yes, it was remarkable that well, it wasn't an infection. It was inflamed tissue.
Okay.
Yeah, the big difference. Okay. Yeah, and but just so people know, it's like there's when Heather asked, how come the nanobots didn't like clear up all the inflamed tissue, and my answer is, because that probably existed before the nanoplasma was inserted in my body. Before they took all the blood out of my body and replaced it with nanoplasma, it was probably identified by the nanites as something that was innocuous and part of my body, is probably why. It was probably identified as an integral part of my body, and so they never... But they did contain the inflammation to a degree, because that's one of the first things Dr. Epstein asked me when I saw her, was, how can you fucking breathe? Was when she was looking up in my skull, she says, your average person in this condition would not be able to breathe at all. And so they were probably constantly clearing my passages. Yeah, such being said, we've gradually taken different parts of, because I'm not really biologically meant to eat food and should be drinking blood more constantly. A lot of that's been solved by my having access to more blood these days, so I don't have the problem that I used to. But throughout my life, when I didn't have regular access to blood as a consumption material, as sustenance, then what would happen is I'd try to eat normal food and my body would reject it. And it would reject it by producing voluminous amounts of mucus. So all the while I was masticating, meaning chewing, then what would happen is that I would just, like a hagfish, start like a garden hose. I'd start spewing out, literally spewing out mucus and choking on it to the point where I couldn't eat. So I grew up a 96-pound weakling, quite literally malnourished through the majority of my life. And for a normal person, that would have impacted them throughout their lives because you would never really recover from that. Your brain would be smaller and atrophied, everything else. That's not the case in my case. My brain's impacted instead by complex post-traumatic stress disorder, but it's not abnormally small like would happen in a normally malnourished childhood. Otherwise, however, I rebounded when I began to receive a cocktail of steroids that were able to shut down the inflammation reaction or the mucus production reaction. Then I could start to eat. So over the years, the past 5 years, I've gained more weight than I ever have before, but it's a healthy weight of 160 pounds. This time, because of the surgery, I can breathe even better. And now because of that, they've taken away all my steroids, and now I use a different type of steroid that I actually inhale up my nose as a liquid from an irrigation bottle. But now with the injections I'm getting, and you're aware of this, right, Holly? Now I'm getting weekly injections of the stuff that I'm allergic to, so that will make my life even better. And of course, in my place, it's dust mites. So they're shooting me full of dust mite effluvia. But as Brendan will say, it's a wonder that I'm not visibly seething with dust mites when I walk out the door with what he already sensed. I mean, you know, how was it, Brendan, you expressed it? It smelled like I crawled out of a graveyard. Smelled like I crawled out of a grave. Yes. 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 Do you remember that smell, Holly?
Piquant.
Yeah. What's that, Brendan?
What?
Yeah. Oh, I was just, Holly, do you remember my smelling like that or not?
Not on you. Laura had her luggage.
Okay.
So it was.
Well, that was probably cat piss. That's different.
Yeah, that's cat piss. Yes. Oh my God. There you go. It was Laura's cat piss.
No, in Doug's case, it was like like an ancient catacomb / like, you know, it's like coming out of like an old Parisian house where all the shit hasn't been touched since like 1821.
Yes.
That's the vibe I got. Like something that a vampire would live in because they don't need to update their shit because they just, you know, I'm talking like literary vampire.
I don't think he lets anybody back to the boat.
No. They couldn't make it back out.
No, I'm saying like it was because it would, you know, a normal person would get like an allergy attack and die. He doesn't want the insurance issues. Like it was like literally the curtains were like moldering.
Yes.
There's no other way to explain it. I mean, I'm not trying to be rude. It's literally what it was.
Yeah.
It was unlivable. Yeah. It was like a normal person would die for sure.
Yes, definitely.
Well, and he doesn't like an open window.
Yeah.
Actually,
and Doug, did you see the book I put in there?
Oh, I didn't get a chance to see that yet, but I will. And I want to thank you so much
for the lexicon of hate.
Oh, that. Oh, I want to see that. I haven't had a chance yet, but I'll get to it.
It's in the bag.
It's in the bag, along with some kick-ass herbs. So Brendan, tell them about the military-grade medical laser that I showed you.
That stuff is legit. Yeah. Yeah. The 528 nanometer green regen laser. So it's something that heals, that allows your body to heal quicker. So it's some kind of military technology that is available for people that have money. And somehow Doug got a hold of it.
It's RFID.
No, it's not.
They've been using it on horses for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
So the people I knew using lasers on their joints and stuff were going to the vet to get it.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, because those horses, once they get hurt, they're toast. Like, your investment gets ruined.
Yeah.
And with the implant, they have to use those tools from the
you know.
veterinarian.
It's a vet thing.
Yeah.
But
No, it's not
sure.
RFID.
Apparently.
That's how they have to put in the RFID to monitor their livestock.
No, this thing was different. This is like a colored laser that you would see like a laser pointer. That's what it was like.
A tool.
But it was a specific frequency that speeds up healing.
Yeah. No, the ones
like
I
red
saw
light
were
or whatever.
red.
Yeah, radio frequency is outside of the visible spectrum, so you wouldn't even see it if they zapped you.
No, but you're talking green, the military.
Yes. Yeah.
How'd you know the color? I didn't say the color.
Yeah, I heard it.
She knows it. She knows
There's
it.
red, blue, and green.
Yeah.
Or did I say green? I don't think I said it. Maybe I did. But basically,
no, you didn't.
Oh, well, Holly's got half psychic. Holly's half psychic. You're half psychic, Holly.
No, I'm not. It was just a matter.
Must be, because I didn't
say
anything.
That's what made it jump out for me.
Oh my God! And
so I thought, ooh,
I saw something recently that if you crossed two red lasers, that you could see inside of something. Like if you have a cross, like one going one way, one going the other way, and they cross each other, like right where they cross each other, you could see like some code or something. I don't know if that's true.
Oh.
You probably see your irises or your retinas burning out is what you see. Then you see the...
You see like a marquee of some code going by.
I
don't know.
That would be neat.
That's...
Oh, go on. What, Brendan?
Enochian language comes in.
Ah, cool. Yeah.
Those, looking into the twilight of the spectrums is where you get like Enochian script and all that. Like, there's no need to go there.
Mm-hmm.
Those beings are just like projecting shit for you to see. Like, you don't. It's never good.
Oh, it's like wearing the They Live glasses.
No. It's not like the Matrix. Don't write. If you see anything inside of that, don't write it down.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't see. I see enough weird shit having keratoconus that I don't need to hallucinate. You know, what I see is weird.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
So no crossing lasers are needed for that.
And so in terms of the Presidio, when it came to some of the things that we saw, you might relate to people how I was shutting down mentally what one particular building was. I was saying, tell people about that.
Yeah, we kept going back to it, like, what is this building? And you're like, I don't know. And I was like, is it the chapel? And you're like, no, the chapel's over there. And we saw it. And then I was like, what the fuck is it?
But by the way, Brendan, tell me how you dared me to go inside the chapel, and I said, fuck no. I didn't want to burst into flames.
Oh yeah, the chapel. What about the free exhibit?
Oh God, tell them about that.
Yeah. So the first building. So the building that was next to the theater, I was like, so what is that? And you were like, I don't know, I can't remember. It's like, it was like completely blocked from memory. And then we started describing, the whole, how the kids ended up at the library and all that, like why they kept walking over there and shit. And you were like, you know what that building was? It was the daycare center. And they had completely gutted it and basically rebuilt a brand new building in the same style. And so it was a different building, but it was on the location of where that thing was, where they kept the children.
Yes.
And that's why you couldn't remember it. I was like, I don't blame you. It's just fucked up.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. And as well, he asked a very important question that I had never given thought to. Brendan asked me, did you ever return into the chapel after the night of the broken circle and your possession by the peacock angel? I said, I never gave it a thought, but now that you asked me, I realize I never had. And because my dad used to take me there while I was growing up on Sundays to attend the Roman Catholic Church ceremonies. And
yeah, because it was Catholic from the time of the Spaniards. Yeah.
Yes.
It was like Mary. Mary was the deity.
Yeah, the Chapel of Our Mary. Yes, that's right, Our Lady Mary. And so yeah, he used to take me there when I was young. But after the night of the Broken Circle, I never entered that building again. I had never given.
Yeah, and he wouldn't go in. I tried. I was like, I want to see you burst into flames or something. Yes. Or some like nun would come from the back, sprinkle water on us and shit.
Yes. And then I'd burst into flames. Yeah.
Right.
Something like that. Or she'd just ask us to leave, identify me immediately. And
yeah, literally.
Yes. It's be
and
gone.
Then, so while we were sitting in front of the chapel, you were like, do you see it? Look what's there. And it was a free exhibit that was about the Japanese internment in World War II. So there you go.
Yeah. And that was, of course, because the order was signed, the Executive Order 9066 was signed by Roosevelt on site, the Presidio military base. So that's where he gave the executive order to imprison all the Japanese. So that's like, it's like the room where he signed it in. Almost certainly that's probably the room he signed.
Yeah, right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then they've got an exhibit, like they're proud of it.
Yeah, they were like, come see the true story of, like.
Yeah, I bet.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah, the true story about how fucked up FDR really was, and all you white Americans, yes. Oh.
And we're in round 2 right now.
Oh, yeah, tell them how we had that devil of a time trying to get into the cemetery. How it just kept looping us as well on that.
Oh, yeah, if you type it in, it does not take you to the cemetery. Like, we had to actually just drive around and find it. Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah, we had to find a way.
There's no point. When you're with Doug, don't even bother using the fucking navigation. Like, get a paper map or something.
Yes.
Like, there's no point. It literally sabotaged every single time I looked something up.
Yes. Yep.
Not without a doubt.
Yeah.
And when I was driving out, my map, the application map thing, got sabotaged to the point where I had to pull over and stop to reset. I reset the whole phone.
Oh my God.
So this has never happened before. I reset the whole phone, then turned it back on, and the glitch on the app was still there, with the same glitch, same everything. It was like, literally, that's never happened.
That's incredible. That's incredible. And I noticed that the next day.
Do you think that those stickers would help that you could put on your phone that deflect that stuff? There's like stickers you could put on things to make it not be affected.
My phone is coded. I mean, it's completely.
Oh, what Heather is speaking of.
You should get 2. You should get a backup.
Yeah, you should get. We should all have 2 cell phones. True, but what ideally, but what Heather's referring to is that certain people who are afraid of radiation poisoning from their phone, they get these stickers that's supposed to cancel out the negative radiation on their phone. I think that's more like what inspired Heather with that concept, right, Heather?
Yeah,
but I already have tags or something.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that's what I was asking.
Yeah, but it's definitely so. Let's put it this way. I would love for Sammy Romero, it's his birthday Eve day, so he's probably partying his ass off. But if he joins us tonight, hopefully he can exchange notes, or hopefully that'll happen sometime soon, that while it's still fresh in Brendan's head, that the 2 of them can exchange notes on their experiences with me in terms of the Presidio. But it was definitely, Brendan only saw a few of the solid bunkers. But what he did see was the 2 little bunkered, I guess we'd call them like pillbox kind of affairs where the arsenals were. I took him to where the cannon was. So you can go a bit into just the weirdness of how close the new daycare center is for the families that live there now. The civilians that live there now and rent there, they take their children to a daycare center that's built basically across the street from where the old one was burned down and reconstructed. I mean, tell people about this. And
yeah, it's bizarre. They built like a little preschool right next to the library. It was really weird. Yeah. The placement is odd. It's definitely strange. Yeah.
And the feng shui. What was your concept of the feng shui of it all? The hostels. Tell them about the hostels for the mercenaries. I showed you where the mercenaries would stay. Yeah. Just the whole feeling with everything. Just
I mean, I didn't have much of like a visceral reaction to it. It just seemed like normal barracks, but you could see the class. What would be the word? The classness. You know, that there was like upper class, lower class, and then just, you know, regular people. In the building style. Like during that time, it was like you had like the officers staying in like really nice colonial style buildings. Then the lower officers were staying in these kind of like duplex homes that were still really nice. And they're still all there being, you know, rented and purchased by people like as high-end luxury housing nowadays, even though they're all old buildings. And then there was like this hotel that was like really nice colonial style hotel. And then you saw like the regular, like barrack things that were, you said were for mercenaries. And those were like very odd looking. Yeah. And yeah, definitely looked like, you know, some place where someone will get murdered or something.
Yeah, those are for the troops who had basically either a career or at least a stint in the army that was in which they distinguished themselves by combat service, and then they got the rest of their life access to what's called MAC, or Military Airlift Command, meaning that they could take off from military bases using military transport planes to get free rides anywhere in the world where there were U.S. military bases. And so then they would stay in those hostels, and that's where I recruited the mercenaries from that were going to kill Clinton, Bill Clinton,
right?
Not Hillary. And that was another one of the scandals that ultimately shut the Presidio down. But they would stay in those hostels before they took off again to another place. But they'd often come to the Presidio to receive orders from people like Michael Aquino to do plausibly deniable jobs for the military that the military did not want blamed upon itself. So they were literal mercenary hostels. And there was one for those that were on the low end, that were just, you know, staying with other mercenaries in, like, they all shared a communal, like, game center and whatnot. And then the other one was where they could take somebody.
Yeah, they looked like, they were like motel style.
Yeah.
They were like these balconies with like single rooms.
Yeah.
Very strange. But
Yeah.
like old style.
Yeah.
Probably from the 40s.
Yeah. And then across the street on the same side as the chapel was the more expensive hotel where they'd take somebody, like if they had a boy queer whore to fuck. Like if they had some boy chick that they were gonna rape, they'd bring him into that hotel so they could rape him alone without, you know, taking somebody into a communal lounge or something. And so there you go with that. And I know that because I know the type of people who checked in and had to deal with it.
Yeah, so this wasn't like a, as you could tell, this wasn't like a normal tour of like, you know, where they give you the historic spiel. This was like this was the Dietrich version where like everything was horrifying.
Yes, thank you. Yes, that's right.
Yeah, that's where, you know, that's where the headless body was found, where there's blood everywhere. I was like, oh wow, that's crazy.
Yes, this was the sacrificial spot. I literally showed you that, right? This is where the
Yeah, you showed me where the spot was.
Yeah,
and it felt weird. That's for sure.
Yes. Well, you felt
after all these years.
Yeah, but you felt that kind of feeling also at the house across the street that's abandoned. It's just the feeling of just
that was the strongest feeling. I don't know what the hell's in there, but definitely, it's haunted as fuck. They got entities in that shit.
Yes, homeless people don't sleep there because they fall asleep on that stoop, and it has no protective gate. You know, most of the other homes have a gate, and the few places where there's no gate, homeless people will often nap on. But for the shelter from the wind. But in that case, when they sleep there, they don't wake up, so the homeless never sleep on that stoop. It like,
oh yeah, you can feel it too. It's not safe. Yeah.
Yeah. It's
isn't that the building that's painted all black? It's like super shady looking.
Oh yeah. It's definitely it says "do not welcome" in its own way, not with any sign, but just with its own aura. You know, like houses have their own aura they project. It's like, it has this aura. Don't come near me. The street it's Lunar Hill,
and then the house next to it, or down like a couple houses down.
that it's literally hasn't been entered since the 70s.
Yeah.
Like literally the door hasn't been opened since like 1970. I'm not shitting you.
Oh yeah. Oh.
It still has skeleton key.
Yes.
Like key locks.
Yes.
Like for the old school skeleton keys. So there's no like it's completely boarded and shut. It's bizarre.
Yes, and you can tell
that's some sketchy shit.
Yeah. And you can tell him, you know, where Wolf Boy lives now. You know where Wolf Boy lives.
Yeah, yeah, I saw that too.
Yeah.
That also looks sketch as hell.
Yeah. Yes, that's got the little sewing factory underneath it. The sweatshop.
Yeah. So yeah, exactly. There's a sweatshop underneath the basement. But if anyone thinks SF is some luxury place, like I hate to break it to you, this ain't no, you know, high end, you know, like, yeah. So I guess the way I would put it is London was nicer than SF. Like even the oldest, most decrepit part of London was not that scary looking. Yeah. So there you go.
Yes. Thank you. And but all such being said, what else comes to mind? Plenty, actually. We can speak about Heather and Holly, bring up whatever subjects come to your mind. And of course, we want to get a bit of a roundtable going. There's still plenty that I remember that Brendan and I can bring up, because just so much happened that day that it was hard to keep track of everything. Really, I mean, because we were not only dealing with just what we were trying to contend with, we just kept hitting with this assault on, we just kept being hit with this assault on the senses wherever we were at, of things happening that really just shouldn't be happening, from all the surveillance to the everything else. Oh, yeah, it was just a day that it would take days to digest. And
yeah, the calmest part was the cemetery.
Yes. Yeah, that's right. That's right. Tell them about the people living there. Tell them about the people living there.
Yeah, the groundskeeper gets to live in this like prime real estate house right there on Presidio, inside the cemetery gates. Like super nice colonial style house overlooking the bay and all that shit. But his backyard's a cemetery.
And there was
when you buy graves, it's also considered to be like real estate.
Oh, that's what Heather asked. Isn't the cemetery in San Francisco Indian burial ground? But by the way, you could call all of North America a mass genocidal Indian burial ground, really, but yeah,
that's why it's cursed.
Yeah, but in Presidio, it's more concentrated. You can tell Heather and Holly about that. You can tell them where I was pointing out that, and I'm sure you felt it. You know, just
it's haunted as fuck. Yeah. And not even just the cemetery; the whole place is all fucked up.
Yeah,
like it looks beautiful. Like if you were just like a tourist and you saw it, you'd be like, "This is so amazing," but you could feel the darkness there. Yeah. It's definitely an odd place.
Yeah. Yeah.
I heard that Trump was going to put some of the deporting people at Guantanamo Bay. Is that true?
Yes. 30,000 of them at least.
The Cubans don't want it. They're pissed.
Yeah. But what can they do?
Yeah. That's haunted.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure. Yeah. Well, of course. I mean, that goes without saying. It's like...
all of Cuba and Hispania are all fucked up from the conquistadors. I mean,
yeah.
The conquistadors. Yeah.
And
millions of people got slaughtered.
Yeah. So what's that, Holly? Oh, Holly, speak into your mic, please. Your voice is very distant.
Yeah, I'm trying.
Yeah.
I'm all messed up here because I've got it plugged into the charger.
Okay.
And I'm trying to get the mic.
Just yell.
Well,
anyway,
yeah. Go on, honey.
I did get to take a guided tour of the Presidio.
Okay.
And I had been listening to you for some time.
Yeah.
And of course, you know, going with you is the ultimate. But San Francisco Library. Am I coming? Can you hear me?
Yeah, but it's still low.
Okay.
Try and talk directly into the mic if you can. No worries.
Yeah, I am. San Francisco Library, up until COVID, had this remarkable walking tour. 60, 80 tours on any subject. San Francisco. from architecture to bordellos to pirates. The gold rush one was amazing. And so after all I'd heard from Douglas, I got to go on the Presidio one, right? So just two quick observations. Of course, the tour guide was excellent, I must say, but knew nothing about your world. So I went with it how it was, and I was a little bummed because it was like women's roles at the Presidio, and I'm like, oh god,
oh my god.
Right? But I had a couple of cool observations, and and the tour on that was fascinating, okay, in its own right, back in the earthquake time.
Yeah.
Anyway, one quick little aside was the whole, you know, we met at, I think was what the Officers Club was, and there's that big old open field in front of you, and you can see straight to the ocean.
Oh, yes. You're talking about, that's the grinder, what was the parade ground that at that time was all concrete. It was all concretized, and it looked like the ocean itself when it was raining in a gray day. But yeah, our man Brendan didn't get that effect because tell her they covered it all up, Brendan, with green grass. They
that's what I saw. It was all sod.
Okay.
Yeah, and trees and stuff
yeah,
like
it looked
that.
great. It looked like a soccer field or something.
Yeah. But I remember seeing pictures. And is that where the was looking out the front door of the club?
Say that again, honey.
To the left.
That's where what was?
Is that where the chapel is? To if you're looking out the front door of that Officers Club kind of joint.
Well, the chapel
to the left is the chapel.
Well, if you're looking at the Officers Club, you're standing in front of it, the chapel would be to your left. But otherwise, if you're standing at the entrance of the Officers Club, it would be to your right. And Brendan, tell her about the old chapel. We actually saw the side of the old chapel with what looked like the pit to hell or some shit at the altar. As you said, the original altar. Yes.
It's the original altar from like 1720 or something.
Yes.
With the original adobe bricks around it. Yeah. So like we're talking Spaniard, like the days of the mission and the El Camino Real and all this stuff. So those bricks are still there on site, and I'm sure they did all kinds of rituals.
I think you're not allowed to remove them. Anything made out of adobe, you can't move it, or even if it has mold, you got to leave it there.
Okay, why is that, honey?
I think that's a law.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's a law. I think that anything that's made out of that, you can't take it down because it's historical.
Fabulous. Good. I love it.
Well, and back then,
even if it has mold, which I don't think is good.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, and what were you saying, Holly?
That would have been a Mexican military fort.
Yes,
right.
That's correct, of course.
And that's why it's a Presidio.
That's right.
It used to be Mexican.
Well, Spanish. Spanish.
Yeah.
Spanish.
El Presidio means military base in Spanish.
Yeah.
In ancient Spanish or like colonial Spanish.
Yeah, it was Mexican for a while, but not long enough. The Americans moved.
No, we're talking like like pre-Mexico.
Yeah.
This was like Jesuits.
Yes.
Came,
okay.
During the conquistadors, they came all the way through. From the west, like New Mexico, from Mexico, New Mexico, Texas, all the way up the coast. And there was like a special road they used called El Camino Real, and they named it California, the Jesuits, and they developed. Each place had a mission, which was these places where they would conquer the native population, convert them to Catholicism, and then they made it all the way past San Francisco, and you can still visit the missions. They're all there, most of them.
Yes, because of Hearst.
Yes.
Oh, and tell Holly.
And there are treasure troves of weird.
Oh, of course.
I visit as many as I can.
Yeah. Tell Holly about what.
Always treasure troves and great gift shops.
Oh, no doubt. Plus, always the little Mexican bell motif, which the Indians thought of as a sheer symbol of terror. That's like anathema to them. The mission bell. But Brendan, tell
the
Holly.
Matanza tree and stuff like that.
Yeah. Tell Holly about the first aid place you saw. That was set up for the earthquake refugees because they had so many earthquake refugees that would park on the parade ground during earthquakes in the past. They had to set up a first aid center just because everybody was fighting each other and killing each other over each other's wives and shit and daughters and shit. But, you know, Brendan saw that with the, you know, and how that was so weirdly juxtaposed between the arsenals where they kept the ordnance, you know, the guns.
Right.
And shit.
Literally right behind it. So there was like, there was like a shed for all the rifles. And then right behind it was like a little medic station clinic thing. And at first I thought Doug said that's where all the weapons were. And he's like, no, it's that thing in front of it. And I was like, oh, shit. That's crazy.
Yeah. Oh, what do they call that? It's not a battery.
It's like a miniature battery. It's kind of like that. It was like a little, you know, but they're like, they're weird. It's hard to describe because they were, originally they were built by the Spaniards, so they weren't built to modern standards.
Right.
Yeah. And they wouldn't be what you'd consider a modern facility in that sense. So it's all very bizarre. And but you know, they used to have a sign. If we had walked down that grinder, they might have still had the sign there. I'd bet anything they took it down. But when the Presidio military base was active, they had a sign there about the Indian tribe that had been exterminated on site. This is the site where the Indian tribe, you know, made its last stand and was exterminated.
Uppity Indian tribe, yeah.
Of course they did.
But
well, so if on the way in you go over this creek, and so we were told on the tour that at the head of that creek where the spring burbles out, and after the walk I went up there to check it out, lived the witch.
Witch
of the Presidio.
Oh, tell us about this.
The witch. I don't know her name or if they ever knew or if they did, but a witch had her place at the head of that spring that turns into the creek that runs down, and you can see it. It goes under the road and then probably just. And everyone thought she was good because up that gully was where a lot of the Mexican service civilian personnel lived. And the family next to her had 13 kids. So that was considered very beneficent.
Sounds like she's pure raw evil to me. Yeah, that sounds like
she was a good witch back then. Yeah. So that was the first thing. The second thing was we staggered through at the end just for no particular reason, but I was like checking it out heavily. The Fool Lucas facility.
Yeah.
And it's just ridiculous because I know most of it's underground, but they got the little dinky ass little stupid little room. They probably are selling stuff with, like, you know, a Darth Vader costume, a few others behind glass, and oh man, don't you be touching anything. And they let you in through a locked door. Sure, there's a number of people wanting to get in, but they weren't counting. You know, there was no crowd that day. But the whole thing was just so ludicrous, and my skin was just crawling.
Oh, no
which
doubt.
It would be anyway, but I knew your backstory on that, and that's all up in the tunnel network, right?
Yes. Yeah, say that again because you got cut off.
Sorry. I'm having real bad reception, too, off and on. I'm not sure if it's... I think it's just me, but I don't know. That's up there in that tunnel network.
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
Right.
Well, the tunnels are throughout the Presidio. I mean, they're just throughout.
But there's, you know, it's one of those. There's a few of those around here where the action is all underground.
Yeah.
And the top is just some kind of facade.
Yeah. Yeah. And well, I mean, the thing that Brendan was able to appreciate is because Brendan does work on property sites where he's acting as the custodial, and they force him to do so much above and beyond the call of duty. Brendan was able to identify right away that what I was saying was structurally coherent. In other words, Brendan, if you will help explain, that when I pointed out this is where the incinerators were, this is where the computers were, you could tell that what I was saying was structurally exactly where they would be in relation to the site, the parts that they had taken down and converted.
Yeah, all the remnants were there.
Yeah.
The remnants were all there.
Yeah,
of what Doug's been speaking of.
Yeah, including the underground tunnels.
I could not. I wasn't getting that out of this tour. That's for sure.
Of course not.
No, those people, unless you were on site, you wouldn't have known that. Because once it became parkland, they cleaned up all that old shit.
Yeah,
that's right.
And tore down the
military packed to it.
And tore down the Letterman Army Medical Center completely. Completely tore that down. It's like
that was an interesting the first thing we saw was where the medical center was, and it just looked like, what did they make it into, like this high rise of like old folks homes or something?
Yeah, it was something bizarre, not even that high.
Talk
just
about haunted.
Yeah.
So the hauntings can just so all the Alzheimer's people get haunted and they think it's just a hallucination or something.
Yes. So here's what it was like.
And that's the thing. The Lucas Building's a complete teardown too, right?
Yes. So let me do.
Yeah, the Disney Museum, all that stuff is all new construction.
Yeah. But here's but what Holly is saying is that the original George Lucas Museum is no longer there either. It's like they built that, tore it down, and then the Disney Museum took over. Which so I'm sharing screen right now. So if you two can see the as well as Aristides and Heather, if you can see that this is Letterman Army Medical Center when it existed. Normally, what would have happened would be that I could have taken, our man in to see a complex that looked like this back in the day. That because I grew up essentially with access to this. Here it is. Look at that. In national parks, voices of Letterman General Hospital. Yeah, not the screams, just the voices, not the screams. And so when later on, when they started ripping it down, they destroyed all evidence. They just tore the whole fucking building down just to make certain that nobody could ever have any evidence of how bad it was in there and the shit they were doing in there. But that was what. Now look at this. Is this based on my search history? I get all this cheesecake. It's like, yeah, these dames are all caked out. I noticed that when I'm looking up Letterman Hospital demolition, Presidio, San Francisco.
It thinks you're like an old GI because no one else would look this shit up.
Yeah. That's
like a pinup the dude would have in his bunker or something.
Yeah, this is from what did they call those aluminum? Those kinds of, what do they call those little Quonset huts? This would be like stuff you'd see in a Quonset hut. Yeah, from back in the day.
Some pinup.
Yeah, and
some Betty Page lookalike pinup.
Dean Martin. Right. Jesus Christ! Talk about old shit. Yeah. And
and it says interesting here. Do you see where it says Placerville, California?
Oh,
that's by me. I don't know why it would show you that.
Yeah,
that's weird.
That is odd. Yeah, Placerville.
And Placerville is called Hangtown because it's where in the Old West they would literally lynch people. If you were a criminal, they would drag you up the mountain to Placerville and hang you in the square.
Yeah.
And that shit's haunted as fuck too.
Oh, no doubt. No doubt. I mean, damn, all I'm getting is cheesecake on this. And also, this is what happens if men could sculpt. Obviously, your average GI could never produce anything like this, but if your average man sculpts, he sculpts shit like this. Yeah, that's there we are. And it's like, of course, when I was young, that's something that I would sculpt and then say was art. I mean, like, fuck, review my purchases. I hit the wrong button. They have this stuff just like load up for you. And then they try to get you to enter your email address. It's so fucked up. I'm just trying to take a better look at these statues. This one is particularly pornographic. It is like, well, there you go.
Wow.
Yes, men who sculpt. This is what we got. I guess they're trying to distract us from what my exposition.
The chick that's cross-legged has her hands down her pants. That's interesting.
Yeah. Yes, of course. Like I said, if a man sculpts, that's what they produced. A woman sculpting another woman would give her 60 more pounds, or something of that nature. So what's weird is they show this building and they say something like Letterman General Hospital. That, of course, was not the hospital, obviously, but it's an extension of the hospital, part of its campus. So that was changed to something else now. There's a weird flag on that, where it, obviously like an Earth flag or some bullshit. That has to do with like some new company leasing it or something like that. But there you go. I just had to show that.
Yeah, that building might still be there.
Oh, no doubt.
One we just saw.
Yeah. If I start sharing again and bring us back there, yeah, that is almost certainly still there. That's still there because they're flying some other flag.
Yeah, that we drove by it.
Yeah. And but then again, they all look alike.
Maybe they gave it to Elon.
Yeah, but notice how close.
Elon needs to San Francisco.
Yeah, notice how close the Letterman Army Medical Center is to the Palace of Fine Arts. I'm trying to like get there. So if you see that, end of an era. Yeah, reign of terror. Letterman coming down, and you can see the Palace of Fine Arts is right there where we drove by, and so there you go, and
you can see it from the base someplace, can't you?
Yes, yeah, Palace of Fine Arts you can see from the base.
A little bit.
Yeah, and
I tried to go in there, but it was like there's not much parking space over there.
Yeah,
and it's a tiny little palace. What's up with that?
Yeah.
Oh, tell her how it's left over from. This is where all that Tartarian shit. Tell her. Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of the buildings that was left. Yeah. It's from the World's Fair.
World's Fair.
It's one of the World's Fair buildings that.
Oh, you don't say.
Yeah, that was actually left up. But people don't realize that only a few of those buildings were actual buildings because they cost so much to produce. They were actually facades, a lot of them. Which is, there's nothing wrong with that. We do that nowadays when we do festivals. You put up a big, building and they tear it down. It's all plywood. So all these Tartarian people say, how did they build this wall of stone and then take it down in 2 years? It's like, well, first of all, most of them were not.
The White City.
What's up with that?
Devil in the White City.
Is that a novel?
Eric Larson. No, it's all factual, and it is the most mind-boggling Gilded Age folly. It was the first World's Fair in Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, this guy writes it so good. It was kind of booky, like calling sick from work to finish.
Wow.
Ripping. And I had no interest in the subject whatsoever. But all I'm saying is Devil in the White City. There's a side story about how there was also a serial killer operating. But you can easily skip those chapters because they're not the most mind-blowing pages in the book.
Interesting.
On every page. Oh, yeah. I can't say enough about it. I've read a lot of his books now, and he's very good. But that one, it's just unimaginable. What they did to put those fairs on. And so Chicago, the first one, was in the late 1800s. I went to one in New York as a child. So San Francisco must have been in between those two. I don't know anything about that one.
Do you? Anybody?
Well, I'm telling you, if you
what was the specific question
on lunch break?
And what exactly did the book say? I mean,
it's just a mind-boggling story of how this thing happened, because France did something that the world had never seen before.
Yeah, with their World's Fair. And so
they were the first.
Yeah, so when it came to these World's Fairs, also what you had was England. Don't forget, England built that Crystal Palace. The Crystal Palace was built for their World's Fairs, and
that one is the most damning, like in the Tartarian sense. That's the most sketchy one.
Yeah,
because they said, "Oh, it burnt down." I'm like, what the fuck? I saw it. There's no way that can burn down. It doesn't make sense.
The Chicago one did too. The Chicago one kind of did too at the end.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But everybody wanted it to because, it was just, it's a mind-boggling folly. Mind-boggling. I mean, mean, it's mind-boggling. I'm telling you, they've been trying to make a movie out of this book for years, but nobody could get their mind around it.
Wow.
And it's just, and I didn't care. But good Lord, and the names in there. I didn't know who Frederick Olmsted was. The earliest, greatest landscape designer on earth. I mean, and the nature and the weather and the fires and floods and what they did to the river in Chicago in the late 1890s, which was a roaring cacophony of boys all the time. That city, God, it was awful. I'm telling you, man, this book will hold you if you got time to read for pleasure, so to speak. But yeah, it was very worthwhile. But anyway, not to go down that hole, but it puts what the Palace of Fine Arts is doing from there into perspective.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I can imagine the wild excess of the San Francisco one.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, it was definitely, they built Treasure Island for that. Treasure Island was built for that. Yeah.
Wild.
And that's where Willie Brown, our black mayor, kept his Chinese or Korean mistress. Was she Chinese or Korean? I don't know if anyone remembers. But she was.
I don't.
Yeah, he kept his mistress on Treasure Island. Believe that shit? Just so.
I thought Treasure Island was always military.
It became.
That was the treasure he was hiding.
Yeah. Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Wow.
Treasure in the sheets or something.
Yeah, there you go. But the military, only until like Presidio, it all got shut down. When I got the Presidio military base shut down, honey, they didn't have the infrastructure to support Treasure Island anymore. Then they had to shut that down. And then they shut down everything after that in the area. And so with Treasure Island...
That happened here, too.
Yeah. So with Treasure Island, that became like a... just like, again, renting out to private people, even though it was... And I don't even know if that's even parkland. I don't know if they...
It's a weird, half-empty warehouse district.
Yeah, basically. They don't...
and some
They just use it for raves and shit.
Yeah, it's
in
true.
Festivals.
Residential neighborhoods.
Generally,
some, still.
No, believe it or not,
and
when my cell phone kept breaking, I had to keep going down to the state building to, be able to call the right services to get it reestablished, the service reestablished. And at that time, the one young lady who was most helpful to me was this half black, probably mulatto, but, basically would have called herself African American, I'm sure. But she was a security guard, and she lived on Treasure Island. And, oh,
wow.
And I said,
where?
Yeah, well, it's Treasure Island. Like you said, it's half empty with warehouses, but then people live there because the sailor families.
I know if you're on the. Yeah, there are spots, but if you're on the bridge, like going through it, or like past it, there's like a brand new fucking like luxury flats, like apartment building that they put precariously. It's bizarre. I don't know who would pay to live there.
Totally believe that. I totally.
Yeah, it's right there when you're going right before you get through the tunnel on the second half of the bridge. It's like, and it says, "Come get your luxury apartment, new luxury apartment." I'm like, what the fuck? Who would live right there?
Doesn't surprise me.
Like if I had like a couple million for a flat. Yeah, like if you have a couple million for a flat, why would you go there where like your front door is all trafficy and shit? Like what is that even for?
It's not only that, it's the fact that you're during an earthquake, you are stuck without resupply. You're trapped.
Man.
And it's bad enough as far as I'm concerned with, there's got to be, if it gets any bus service, the bus service goes into it only like once or twice or 3-4 times a day. It's got to be, I remember waiting for buses on Treasure Island when it was a military base, and it would be hours. You'd be waiting hours for a bus, and then it'd take you home. But it was still kept a fairly regular schedule, but you had to understand it was 2-hour spaces between them. Or something like that, while these buses would come to pick you up, and they stopped at a certain time. But at that point, at nighttime, you're trapped on the island. It's like curfew. So if you've got something private, you're getting in and out with cars. But still, what about supplies? So whatever supplies are on the island, you're counting are coming in by boat as well as by truck, and but mostly, I guess, by truck. But it was a nightmare place already back then. Just like I was telling Brendan about, imagine living on the Presidio. It's unlivable when you think about. First off, it's pitch black at night, and it's got playgrounds all over the fucking place, like playgrounds for like.
Yeah, and the cadaver bus. You remember the bus?
Yeah, tell them about that.
What?
It was like a bus that was like, you know, like a municipal bus that was specifically for the Presidio, for people that live there now. But it had like completely tinted windows, and we drove behind it for like miles and miles, and it never stopped.
Yeah.
Like it never picked anyone up. It was bizarre.
Never picked anyone up, never let anyone out. No one ever.
Yeah, never let anyone out. No one was on it, presumably, but the windows were all tinted like limo tint.
Yeah.
On like a bus. It was weird.
Yeah. So
it was like a charter bus.
No, it's like a fucking, like a bus that you see when you go into towns that have like, what's her name? Lori Ann Fenton, when she set up one of her conferences in some little town. I can't remember where it was, but Beaver had to drive me there, my gang brother. And the first thing he pointed out to me was, look at why she set it up here. It's the cheapest place to rent a conference because everything is bail bondsmen. All he saw was bail bondsmen's offices all over the place. And so we were behind several trucks for prisoners, several buses for prisoners. He says, see, these are the buses that take prisoners between prisons. And he says, that's what we're behind right now. So it's like one of these prison buses that takes prisoners to and from different prisons. Except it's supposed to be the Presidio shuttle. It's called Presidio Go. Presidio. And so the
Presidio. Yeah, those things.
And so the Presidio.
And it was a paddy wagon. Same make and model as the paddy wagon, like you're saying.
Thank you. Yes. Yes, that's what it was. But I said, it's like, who would want to get in that bus? No one can see you while they gang rape you in there. And we don't even know if it had a human driver or whether it was automated because you couldn't see anybody driving. Literally that tinted.
Yeah, even when it came... Yeah. Even when it came straight at us, I didn't see anyone in there. It was weird.
Yeah.
Really weird.
Yeah.
Like it was a ghost. It was like piloted by ghosts and shit.
Yeah, yeah. And it was just cruising along at a snail pace, but never picking anyone up, never letting anyone out. And I said, imagine, does that thing just go around all day, all night? Or is there, like, does it cut off at a certain hour? Or are there several of them? Are different people working different shifts on that? Or, you know, or is it...
And I told Doug, I was like, that's a dream job. Shit.
Yeah,
Get that job.
That's right. Yeah. And you can tell there's actually more than one person living at the cemetery. There were several of those little houses next to each other. So there was like, what, 3 or 4 groundskeepers families, right? Three or 4?
Yeah, there was like a few. Yeah, there was a few houses. Like.
Yeah. Mexican service workers.
No, these guys are
these people are military.
Yeah, no, they're not military anymore. They're National Park Service now.
National Park, yeah. But they had it good. Whoever got those jobs. Like.
Oh, yeah. I could live next to a graveyard.
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah, that'd be no problem.
Well, for if you saw the house, anyone would want to do it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But after a while, you might wonder. I mean, after a while, it might start taxing. But they had their own little neighborhood.
It depends on the graveyard, for sure.
Yeah.
And the Presidio, no.
Yeah, the Presidio graveyard. No, there was some. Tell them about the satanic head posts, the satanic headstones. We saw some black on
I wondered.
Yeah, inverted pentagrams.
It wasn't just
and
plaques
shit.
on the ground.
Yeah, inverted crosses and shit. And then one of them was an inverted pentagram, but when we got up close to it, it was like, this guy won the Medal of Honor, and I was like, wait a second, the Medal of Honor is an inverted pentagram? What the fuck?
Yeah.
Suspicious as fuck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
so there you go.
Yeah, it's a pity he didn't see the pet cemetery. I wonder if the pet cemetery is still there. That should be, but yeah, it's at any rate.
We didn't see it. But
what we need to do is open up.
I put a picture in the chat of a horse.
Okay.
There's a horse buried there.
Oh, okay, so that's at the Presidio.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you, honey. So what Heather provided was a picture of a horse's grave on site, the Presidio military base. Yeah, that's very good. Thank you, Heather. That's wonderful. You're so wonderful. There we are. And So in terms of everything we've been talking about, Aristides, any thoughts? You've been awfully quiet. I
know, but you guys are the experts on Presidio, so I'm just enjoying listening. This is kind of a little flavor story we never really got. So,
yeah, well, it definitely.
How haunted is Montauk?
Yeah. Listen. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, have you been to Montauk?
I've been to Ong's Hat.
I was just there for like a couple days, like 3 days or something like that.
Right. And tell people about, but we'll get back to Holly with Ong's Hat, of course, but
that's okay.
Yeah, but Aristides, tell people about how when you encountered Dr. David Lewis Anderson, how he just casually walked in and said, "Oh, I was just swimming in the ocean, and it's all fucking bunch of breakers and waves slamming against the coast that'll crash your body in an instant."
Just went for a little morning swim in the rough seas off the point. I think it was in the winter too.
Yeah.
Like it was nothing.
Was that when he was living in the old battery plant or something?
What?
Wasn't he living in the old battery plant?
That was up in New York.
Yeah, that's upstate New York.
Was that the
same Rochester, honey.
Time period? I mean, that's a pretty weird thing that you just run into the dude.
Oh, he didn't just run into him. Aristides, tell her how you met. Was that where you met Moon, right?
What, at the same time? At the same time?
Yeah. Was that it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
tell Holly about that. So tell Holly.
But I had met. Which one? I had met Peter before that, but.
Okay. Well, tell Holly about the time you went specifically to see this little conference or something where.
It was his Montauk tour, which was actually pretty cool to see it because it was its own thing, regardless of him, So.
Love guided tours.
No, I mean it's just still, it's still, despite all these jabs, it's still a fascinating place to see, and it was good, good to get there, and Anderson came to this thing, and I don't know if Holly had heard all this. You had heard it, he kind of talked a little bit. He had a little demo video. Supposedly it was.
Tell Holly about that. Tell Holly about that.
Have you heard about Holly? Have you heard about that or
no? No,
not really.
No,
okay.
I gotta hear it. Yeah.
So, he supposedly had this, and this was years ago. So this time control technology, and this was in the earlier stage, supposedly, where it was kind of bench top. Let's put a little plant in there, and supposedly he turn time backwards.
And the spinning wheels and the wheel inside the wheel going the opposite way.
Yeah, well, you didn't really see the whole device. You kind of saw I guess the camera was aimed supposedly inside, so you didn't really see the device working. But you just saw a plant grow and then ungrow and then grow again.
Just reverse footage.
Yeah.
Just tell her it's the reverse footage you'd see.
So I mean, it could, it's something you could fabricate, but I just didn't understand why he would come all the way there just to fabricate this story, and it was just a small crowd, and a lot of them were these type of kind of psychic women that Peter would tend to know around the area.
Yeah, retired phone psychics. Retired phone psychics.
Right, well, that was kind of half the scene. And why would he come there? Why would it be? You think there's not a big propaganda impact to that. So why would he? If he was faking it, if you'd fake it, why would you? That's a waste to fake it.
But it's a waste if it were real. It's a waste either way.
Yeah. Right. So we met him.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, he seemed,
Did he seem shady or what?
When when he was, casually talking to people, he seemed very nice and businesslike, but still kind of, just kind of friendly in a shallow way, not he was really pouring his heart out. He was just very kind of, so
interesting.
Yeah. What else about him? Let me think.
I
don't know. I remember when. What's that?
Was he the only speaker?
No. There was other stuff going on with the whole it was a whole weekend,
which made it even weirder. It's what are these people doing?
Yeah.
No, we went. Yeah, we saw how he talks about Artie Crippen, the Medicine Man. Met him. Had a couple kind of whole get-togethers. I don't know, bunch of people sitting around. What the fuck else do we do?
Sure.
Toured around like the actual base. Got up to like where the fence is around the radar tower.
That's cool.
Yeah. Walked all around there. What the heck else do we do? Thinking. I don't know. I'll think. But yeah, Anderson, I remember he was talking to, like, I went with a friend, so it was like a couple women talking to him, and there's something about, and one of them asked, so David, is there someone special? Like, do you have something? And he was like, oh, no, it's all work, it's all, so, not really,
Yeah.
And I was like, and that was like one of the, I, like, every once in a while I come up with a zinger. I was like, yes. I was like, I turned to him, I'm like, but David, you can make time.
That's right. There you go. There you go.
Nobody laughed as hard as I thought they might.
Oh, good one.
Of course not.
Well, I thought that was good. Tell the time. You can make time. Yeah. There's women, just get in the chamber and work.
There you go. And what did he say? What did he say?
No, there was like no response.
He got nothing. Yeah.
We were like, and they just kept talking.
Yeah.
It's pretty witty.
Anyhow, but David Lewis Anderson is so fucking lame, and it's like, but honestly, but the question is exactly like our man Aristides said. Why is he wasting his time? It's like even if everything he said was real, that makes it even more of a waste of time. There's no reason if what he's doing is real. There's no reason for him to waste his time talking to a bunch of non-entities about when he could be getting billions and billions of dollars in funding, chiseling.
Well, you'd think, yeah.
Right.
I mean, did those old psychic ladies have tons of money or what?
No, right, yeah. If he's going to fake it, fake it to some, huge project investors.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
I mean, Elon grifted, to the top.
Yes. Yeah. He grifted his way to the top. We can say that. Yeah.
Trump too.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, talk about a couple of grifters. And but again, that was the attitude of Christine. Christine was introduced to us by Victoria. We love you, Victoria. If you're listening, Victoria, step on anytime you want. But yes, she had a friend named Christine who came on our show, and her way of introducing herself to everybody, oh, what's your grift? What's your grift? like all of us had a grift.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. It's funny in its own right, but I wasn't offended, but it's just, it's just.
What is it?
I've asked people what their racket is. Oh yeah, what's your racket?
Yeah, it's
what's your game or whatever, your hustle?
Yeah, that's basically what she was saying. Yeah. Yeah,
but this lady was just being rude, like to George Knight.
Yeah,
she's like, so how is it living in council housing? Yeah, he's like, he works for a living. I was just like, what the fuck, bitch?
She just assumed everybody on the show was on welfare. Yeah, so she just asked George,
she said some shit to me too, but I forgot what it was. She's like, oh, you're probably on like food stamps, or she said something crazy like that.
She did. She did.
Man, that's cold.
I was just like, what the fuck?
But it's oh God, could you believe? I don't know. Did you catch Marina Sarin the other night? Holly. Heather did. Heather was on with us. But Holly, did you catch that the other night?
I skipped through because I wanted to catch up with the show. But my attention span is kind of limited there.
By the way, nothing against Marina. Go on, Brendan. Tell it, Brendan.
What?
I'm laughing because it's like with Victoria, these young ladies have to learn to choose their friends better. They really do.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I mean, at least they know what they're doing when they come on this show. But it's like everybody else they meet. I mean, oh my God. And look, people, you can't judge it and say, look, we're not in the same category as Christine. We are not. We're not in the same category as Daryl James. But here's Marina, and she's saying, yeah, Daryl James. What did she say about the IQ thing? She actually believes that he can tell people's IQ?
She said, my friend Daryl James told me about this technology where they can read your IQ with technology. And I just had to shut up.
Yeah.
That's because you missed, Holly, the context. The context was when Daryl James came on our show, and he says,
I remember that night.
"Oh, you do? Yeah." How he said,
"Oh yeah,
my IQ's 100."
Daryl's greatest hits.
His one-hit wonder.
Oh, yeah.
Underground bases.
Yeah,
It was just it was like, you know.
Oh, but he's a one-hit wonder. He was only on here once, and
Praise the Lord.
yeah. Oh my God, my IQ's.
But he got every hit in there.
He did not. We had to be told by other people some of the shit he didn't dare to tell me. He didn't dare go tell me that he was breeding with Ariane maidens on the moon.
Mermaids, yeah.
Yeah, he didn't.
And I guarantee you, he hasn't told Marina that either. By the way.
I don't know. I hope not. Jesus Christ, if he told her that shit, Jesus, I hope she hasn't heard that shit. I hope that's I hope that's the case, that he hasn't been open with her.
What concerns me is these people are so full of self-certainty.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, when you're telling lies,
that's the worst of them. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, when you're making up the narrative, you're in total control. Why wouldn't you have self-certainty?
But the pathological liar actually believes.
I don't know about that. I really don't.
That's the definition of the term.
I'll tell you something. Here's an example where that definition holds true. Would be Vinnie Barbarick. Vinnie Barbarick believes he's not gay, that he cured it through Scientology. That's a concept of pathological self-denial. He's, of course, as gay as queer as a $3 bill. Speaking of which, Brendan gave me these. Yeah. Brendan gave me this wonderful. He gave me basically $22 worth of $2 bills inside of a red envelope for Asian Lunar New Year, and it's so touching. I'm never going to spend it, or I hope I never spend it. I will save it for what his dirty uncle saves it for. Brendan Zogan's dirty uncle saves it to impress waitresses with a tip. Here's a $2 bill, and it's legal tender.
In the sinister Chinese joint.
Oh, he's like a total predator when it comes to Asian chicks.
Yeah,
so
but he still can't.
Still can't get laid.
Gets a lot of.
Yeah, he still can't get laid.
Yeah. It's funny. By the way, they call that yellow fever, and there's so many of these white guys. It's frustrated pedophilia.
It's almost like that. But I've never seen him with a chick. Yeah, like my entire life, 30 years.
There you go.
He had one girlfriend when I was really young, and he was still living like near his parents, like out here. And then after that, we never saw, like, the running joke was that he was queer as can be because we never saw him with a chick.
Yeah.
And he's supposedly successful and all, and has his own place for 30 years, and he's never been with a chick. That's really odd.
Yeah. Yeah.
In my case, it's like I was just dealing with absolute hellscapes and had to live with chicks just out of just necessity. Yeah. So.
Thank you. Yeah, absolutely.
And that always ended up badly, so that's why I'm jaded. Like, for him, nothing bad like that ever happened to him. He's just... And then he would go on these trips to Thailand with his guy friends, these middle-aged fucking sketchy-ass fools. And then when I would ask him, hey, what'd you do? Oh, I was in Phuket. And I was like, what did you do in Phuket? Oh, just drink a beer on the beach. I'm like, dude, you were gone for like a week and a half. And he's like, just doing island stuff. And I'm like, what the fuck?
Island stuff, all right.
He was obviously in the fucking red light district with the lady boys.
Yes, there you go. Yeah.
Yeah, no doubt.
That's the only sexy guy. That's the sexy guy.
Of course.
Yeah.
That's what he preferred. It was like Pete.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like Vinny B.
Yeah. Only Vinny B didn't have the fucking guts to go to Thailand and actually satisfy himself. He had to go...
No, instead he was building bathrooms in a Romanian camp to diddle the kids.
Do it online now. You do it online.
Yeah, Pete isn't online.
He couldn't do it.
Yeah, he's not.
He can find out how to find the friend.
No,
the way to Thailand.
No. Pete doesn't have that level of savvy. Tell her, Brendan. Tell Holly that Holly's giving Pete way too much credit.
There's no physical contact involved.
Holly, you don't get what we're saying. Pete can't get online very well. He's not really that good. He's just an.
He hasn't been able to change his. Yeah. He hasn't been able to change his Facebook photo in like 10 years or something.
Yeah,
15 years.
Paula was doing everything for him. That's right.
And then one time he had a comment. He had a comment on his Facebook that said,
"Pedophile."
Yeah, he was like creeping behind his daughter or something in like an old photo.
Yeah.
And someone put pedophile, and he like left it up for years.
Yes. Yes.
And none of us told him because it was so funny.
Yeah.
We just were like, all right, whatever. And then I guess like maybe Paula heard us laughing at him, so she went and deleted it for him. Back when she was actually hoping she could get everything from his fucking dying ass.
Yes, that's right. That's right.
So she was trying to be nice to him, and then after that, it was like downhill.
Yeah, well, she had every reason to think she would get everything because she was paying off the fucking mortgage. And so when she paid off the mortgage, she's saying, I'm going to get the house, right? I paid it off. He's, no, it goes to my daughter. And it was like, you fucking piece of shit. Yeah, and yeah. Then he has the nerve to say, someday she'll realize I was the best thing that ever happened in her life. Really?
Like, yeah, okay.
Yeah, what a dumb shit. Oh, it's we hope you're listening, Peter. We hope you're going through convulsions. We want to see you spaz out and just die. And
he's online every time we're on air.
Yeah,
so he's obviously compulsively listening.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He can't stop. It's like a horror story. Oh my God. Yes.
Slander.
Yes. Slander.
Even though you said it on air.
Yeah.
Even though. For the longest time, I was being nice, and I was just telling Doug, like, look, he's the one saying this shit. I wasn't saying anything ad hominem.
Yeah.
I was like, you're going to let someone sit here and say, what was it? Like, it was so horrendous, I forgot what it was. Oh yeah. Yeah, I heard his bullshit. I heard the story about this peanut butter and the pickle and all that shit. And we were just like, I was like, revolt. I was literally shuddering.
Yeah.
I was like, Doug, get him off. Get him off there.
For his own sake. At that time, Brendan was still saying, for his own sake, shut him down. Yeah. And,
because there's no way to, like, defend that. Like, especially from an old man.
Yeah, where he's just saying, yeah, my friends were telling me about this young developmentally disabled man, and
at a yacht club.
At a yacht club
having dinner, which is already sus.
Yeah, so and he was claiming that's his black football friends. Really, at a yacht club. Yeah, your black football friends who can't even afford to pay for the park that they're playing, and you've got to pay for their park play. Remember he kept saying they,
Right.
Oh, yeah. The only reason they let him hang out with them was because he was paying for it. So, but...
Yeah, he's paying for the field and all the equipment and shit.
Yeah.
And he would, like, bring him pizza and wings and shit.
Yeah, yeah. Of course.
What the fuck?
Of course they're going to let him hang out. But they sure as hell weren't going to be at no goddamn yacht club. They're not going to be hanging out in some yacht club where he says, yeah, my black friends were at the yacht club when, they started shoving a cucumber up this young retarded man's ass. And, yeah, he was a waiter.
The part that was really weird to me was when he said, he was like, it was in a plastic bag, and I don't know if they used lube or peanut butter.
Yeah.
And after that, I was like, Doug, you gotta get it fucking off.
And he was
like, there's no way you could confuse lube and peanut butter. That's not normal.
and the way he was saying it with this sense of awe and wonder, like he was relating a story about... something completely...
civil rights.
Yeah, no, that would be more stentorian. If you were talking about civil rights, it would have more of a histrionic tone. No, this guy was he was describing it the way you would describe, like, I took my daughter to the school play. I'm coughing on it. I'm choking on it.
It was supposed to be...
Yeah.
He was, like, realizing that black people had it hard.
Oh, I don't know what that has to do with shoving cucumbers up young retarded boys' asses.
That was the whole gist of it, was what I recall. That's what it started out. Yeah, black people really do have it. It's not really equal. And then he tells that story.
Yeah, while they're shoving pickles up kids' asses and shit. Yeah,
See what happens to black people?
Yeah,
right.
There you go. That it sounds so twisted That's probably around that was probably the narrative. Yes, thank you.
I swear to God.
Thank you. Okay, now I get it.
I never forgot.
Now I get it. Thank you, Holly, because what happened with Aristides and Brendan and myself was we were just at that point just turning the channel. We were just like checking out. We were just kind of like.
I was having my own thought.
Yeah.
But it penetrated.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It keeps you up at night just thinking about that. Like, what the fuck was on this guy's mind? What did anyhow? There. Yeah. He's definitely no longer with us, and mentally at least hasn't been for a while. But yeah. There you go with that. And in terms of
and then him trying to like, quote unquote, pay you off, where it calculates to like $1 a day and shit. It's like, really 5 years worth of work and you get $1 a day? What is this fucking?
Yeah, this
is worse than slave labor. Like, what the fuck is this shit? And he thought that was like the freaking the silver bullet.
Yeah,
he's never gonna be able to sue me now. You know, it's just like crazy fucker. Like, that just makes you look more criminal, dude.
It does. It does. Yeah.
Like, look, I paid this impoverished Asian guy $1 a day for 5 years, and he's hating on me. Hating on me. Like, Jesus Christ. That's crazy. That's fucking insane.
And he wouldn't even mow my lawn.
Yeah.
Hey, that's big. He wouldn't even come over and sign the books. He didn't want to come. I offered him free room and board to sign my books. You know, it's just like, yeah, so it's hideously funny. It's just fucked up.
Yo, all we can do is laugh, otherwise we're gonna cry, because we think of all the times we suffered. He's sitting here for hours droning on. Holly, tell us how it was. Just when Pete was on, you would just switch you'd wait till he was gone, right? Normally, you'd wait till he was gone.
Well, I just kind of drift off into my own thoughts. And it was, it was productive on my part.
Yes, got it.
It was end of the day thoughts.
Yes.
Reflections and memories, and every once in a while a name would pop up and I'd check in, but otherwise it was back to cruising.
Yes.
On my thoughts and the currents in the sky.
Yes. And
but yeah, it was not optimum.
No. And it didn't pay off. In the end, he runs off with a book, claims he's got to copyright it, and now he quote unquote owns my life story. And so he says, but we all know that's not the case, and I have no money with which to legally pursue it right now, but we'll just have to rewrite the book and see what happens.
I'm keeping my Roswell copy under glass.
Yes.
And anybody that wants to examine it has to put on gloves.
You didn't order it straight from him, right? You got it from Amazon?
Raleigh.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, because remember all the curses that people were asking us, that telling us their lives were destroyed after they got his books. But then again, these are people. Yeah, these were also people who were ordering the ̔RADU books, which he was putting binding spells on.
The first few people, it was like totally unprompted.
Yeah, it's true.
They were like, "Do you guys think Peter's books are cursed?" And we're like, have you been listening? Like, and they're like, "No, what's going on?"
Yeah. Oh, that's
so they were like totally unprompted. They were like actually feeling fucked up from them.
Yeah.
Dang.
Yeah. And it's the other half were just totally brainwashed. Every time they would write, it was like, "When's the next ̔RADU book coming?" In the chat room. And finally, we got one guy who, I don't know whether it was sincere or trollery. It was funny as hell, but he said, "You must read all of ̔RADU books." And it's like,
he was like vouching for it. He's like, "Go read these books. Yeah. They're the best." Or something.
It's yeah, that's right. And Emo told him, no one's going to do that. But yeah, certainly not anymore. Nobody even knows where to get them now. I mean, if anybody sends any money to Peter for books, I doubt he's going to send them anything. Because he has to deliver them personally. He got himself into that position where he has to deliver them personally through the post office. He has to go down, get in his car, go to the post office, and mail them out. So he's fucked himself up. And but all of that aside, what about?
Why? Because he pissed off UPS.
It's funny you say that. It's basically he wanted to be able to put a binding spell on every shipment so that he would cement his clientele. That was his logic. And so every time he sent out an order, he was putting a binding spell on it. That's why these people were coming to us say, hey, my life's been destroyed ever since I got Peter Moon's books, or I ordered some books from
like
Peter.
Licking the package or something.
He was like, putting sprinkling some shit on it. Just all kinds of
trying to be cool,
Yeah, he's disgusting. And we never thought he was like this. Honestly, who would imagine somebody's like that?
Right.
And you would never suspect some old white guy would be doing what Peter turned out to be doing. But it turns out, of course, Peter's an Edomite, and he was a far greater danger than, who was that poor bastard he exploited? Preston Nichols. He was a far greater danger than Preston Nichols ever was, really. Preston Nichols, of course, loved young boys, but he never had the seduction power to really go out and get them. Of course, he had some opportunities, and Peter actually spoke of them on air, and I think it speaks volumes that Peter never took any action. Aristides, I don't know if you remember this. Brendan, do you remember this? Maybe Holly, maybe you do. That Peter actually said one time, yeah, there was this young blonde kid, elfin-looking, really attractive young blonde boy, very effeminate. And then Preston Nichols said he was going to cure him of the Montauk programming. And then he wound up, of course, being subjected to Preston's, basically said he was raped. And then said, then he called me up shouting, what's going on? What happened to me? Why did this happen? Why did he exploit me like this? And Peter had, just told him, like, pretty much like, bend over and take it like a man. I don't know if anybody remembers his going over this on air, but this is pretty much what Peter actually said on record on one of our episodes. It's still up. And and Peter did.
I might have been drifting.
Yes, we all tended to do that while Peter was talking.
There was so much horror going on with him. I just ignored it.
Yeah, after a while, yes, that's right. After a while, you just tune out.
It was like ravings of a madman.
Thank you. No, it's true. It's true. And after a while, we just all tuned out, and we were just, when's he going to get the book done? We were all just like that. There we have that. And all such being said, so Aristides, when you met Peter, first you met Peter once, that was before you met Dr. David Lewis Anderson with Peter. So what were your memories of that? Because Aaron Tice tells me Aaron Tice met Peter coming out of his home. And so Aaron Tice met Peter like maybe a decade ago for the first time. And he said when Peter first came out of his home, he was stumbling out of his home and he looked. This was before he met Paula, who cleaned his act up. But when he first met Peter, it was pre-Paula, and he said he was a train wreck. He said he came stumbling out of his home. He said he looked almost retarded, like he was like barely able to talk, and that his shirt was out of his pants, half out of his pants. So it wasn't like totally out of his pants, half out of his pants, half tucked in, and he was totally unconscious of his appearance, his behavior, and just like rambled out of his house with the curse of someone who's totally comfortable in their environment, too comfortable, and not cognizant that nobody else is necessarily comfortable with their comfort. But when you met him, what was it like? Was he just...
let's see. I think there was two other times. There was an event in 2001 I went to. And it was called, well, they called it the Montauk Symposium, but it wasn't in Montauk for some reason. They didn't have it anywhere near there, and it was like in Vermont or something. But nonetheless, it was a fairly significant gathering at the time. And it was actually interesting because it was the first time I met Peter. Stuart Swirlow was there, who I had met before that. Duncan Cameron, that was the only time I met him. Preston and Al Bielik were supposed to be there, but this occurred 3 days after 9/11. So that prohibited their, because at the least they had to pass by that area. And
I think Peters talked about that.
Yeah, yeah. Although Preston supposedly said, well, I was called in on secret, double identity, government project contractor work. That there's that too. But but logistically, yeah. I mean, nobody was going anywhere nobody was going about their normal fucking business in that area, for a few days. So, but yeah, I met him there. I don't know what to specifically recall. That was probably, 9/11. So that was over 20 years ago. So he was in better shape then. So,
okay.
Because he was younger. So, which is normal, because as we find out, we get older.
And stop giving a shit.
Another time was the brief. He just gave like a talk in like a little, kind of some small event, just in a room, at some place. And I went and saw a talk because it was like only in like an hour drive from me.
Yeah.
It was nearby. I mean, he's not usually New York is like a few hours, to get to Long Island. So I went to that. It was just kind of a talk, like nothing surprising, but I just went because it was closer. And I'm not gonna lie, he just talked on the same stuff he would always talk.
And by the way, everything in Peter's world is Montauk. And I think Aaron Tice. Yeah, go on.
Yeah, right. No, yeah, right. It is right, or it was.
Yeah.
For a time. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, all his books and everything, it's just anything he's read, it's all Montauk. And to him, everything has to be connected to Montauk, which shows some kind of, that's his programming showing up. Yeah. That's programming, because that's not normal. That's not, everything does not have to be related to a single phenomenon. But
right.
Right. In his.
Yeah, right. Like the world according to Montauk, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's very bizarre. But the whole point about that is, for those of you who don't know, Aaron Tice has said it best. Aaron Tice said that Montauk is Peter Moon's Presidio of San Francisco. And that basically Peter Moon is attached to it because that somehow involves his pedophile activities, which is why Peter Moon always denied the pedophile activities at Montauk. When he was down in these tunnels with Preston Nichols pointed to cages that he said they kept young boys in. And Brendan Zogit, help me out here. Did not Preston describe that these young boys were all kept in the temperature was very low, so the young boys would dogpile on top of each other for body warmth, and were too weak and kept too malnourished to even tear through the chicken wire. But then Peter Moon just denied it and said, oh, it's just chicken wire, and any boy could have tore their way out of that easily. But then why are the cages there? It's like, okay, so you've got these cages.
Yeah, they weren't keeping chickens. They
didn't
need eggs back then.
Yeah.
Eggs weren't $100 a case.
Thank you.
But he never explained that. We asked him, and he said, oh, that's not what it was. That's all he said.
Yeah.
That's not it. That's
he'd go into denial and say, no, there were no children kept at Montauk. That's because he himself, no doubt, was either one of them or fucking them, which is why he denied it, even though Preston Nichols, who himself is a pedo, was open about it. And
well, someone was reviewing the footage from the 90s when they went there and made that documentary.
Yes.
And it's cringy looking. I looked at it. It was like, it's sketchy.
Yeah.
These old white dudes like walking in like an old base. And, it's just shady looking. It looks like a found footage film, like horror film.
Oh yeah. That's perfect description for it.
Yeah, I recall seeing clips of that. I don't have it on hand for some reason. But...
It's on YouTube. You can just find it.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I've seen. Basically, in some some dark basement.
Yes.
And Pete was salty that like the Sci-Fi Channel didn't want to like play the stuff they gave him and shit. He was like, I tried it and they didn't even play what I wanted and all this shit. It's like, yeah, no wonder.
Oh, the whole thing that was so weird was Stranger Things. How he was convinced that was a ripoff of his life. Stranger Things, a ripoff of my life. It's my story. It's my story. Like, he doesn't rip people off. Like, he didn't rip off Preston Nichols, and is not trying to rip off.
Everything he did was literally from someone else. I don't think he did one thing except kill his parents.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Which, for those of you out there who think, oh, that's going too far, he wrote about it, basically confessed.
No, he was happy about it.
Yeah, basically confessed.
He said on air, I told them if they didn't stop trying to get me out of Scientology, something very bad was going to happen. Yeah. Sounds like a threat to me.
Yeah.
And then he wrote about it.
Yeah. Yes, he ran up to me and told me, your parents are dead. I felt nothing.
Yeah.
I knew it would have happened. I knew it was going to happen.
He told the guy that.
Yeah.
He basically told the guy, it's about time, you know, or something.
Yeah. And then, the worst part of it was Brooke's experience when she read that and she cried. And then when she called him and he said, was crying about, I read that first chapter. I was just crying about your parents. Why are you crying? I got the house. I got all the money. Yeah, my siblings got nothing. Why are you crying? That's literally what he said to her.
He said, I got what I wanted.
Yeah.
It's like,
I
don't care if they're dead.
Yeah. And, and I'm glad my parents...
Not to mention the actual... The method of death was, like, just totally non-logical.
Oh, yeah. When I was telling V about that, what happened, I said it was an impossible accident in the car. Accident in quotes. And she said, you mean improbable, right? Not impossible. And I said, no, I mean impossible. Tell him, Brandon. Yeah. Yeah,
he said it was a 60 Chevy that rolled off of a cliff and like burst into flames and blew up.
Oh, it didn't roll off a cliff though. It was on stable ground. It was on level ground. That was the part that made it.
Or something happened because he was saying it was like the Mount of Olives or some kind of ranch.
No, that was just the name of the ranch. The ranch, however, it was on stable ground, and it was but it wasn't.
Well, either way, I showed you.
Yeah.
Either way, like I showed you the clip of that 1955 Chevy. They like threw it off of a jump, and it landed on another car, and it was like barely dented.
Yes.
So other than blunt force trauma, there would be no explosion or any kind of damage from that. Yeah. Other than getting your skull shattered open, but for it to blow up, I mean that's a whole nother. Like obviously it was rigged to blow. Yes. No other way.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's why he wasn't surprised, and just so people know,
he probably requested it.
He either planted the bomb himself or the church did it for him because he was giving all his money to the church, and
exactly.
Yeah,
he probably said, "I'll give you more money if you just get rid of them."
Yeah, that's almost certainly what happened.
And that's why they gave him that spot on the fucking boat.
Oh, yeah.
He was like, that was the highlight of his life.
Yeah, the preeminent spot on the boat where, Aaron Tice was saying, who wouldn't want to be on the Apollo serving L. Ron Hubbard personally? And I said, most people thought it was a hell ship. And most people, their lives were, horrible on that ship. But Peter could get off anytime he wanted. Like, that's how he got his wife, was he'd say, let's not eat this slop. All these pigs are eating this slop. I'll take you on the shore and we can eat in the restaurants. Remember, he was saying that. That was why she married him. Then when she's tried to...
he would take her out to, like, steakhouses and shit. And that's why she found him, man.
Yeah, and then when she tried to maintain sexual vitality in their, quote-unquote romance and started trying to experiment with sex, get into some bondage, and he's like, oh, that's filthy sick. Oh,
that was the funny part.
Yeah.
That was the funny part. He was disgusted that she was into BDSM or something.
Yeah.
It's like 90% of married dudes would be like so hyped on that.
Yeah.
And then this guy's over here like, I wasn't feeling it. It's like, I guess this was the days before pegging was a thing. Otherwise he'd be hyped. Otherwise he'd be like in line for that shit. Too bad he missed it. Yeah.
Oh man, that's funny. And so, dear Heather, in terms of what's going on with yourself, how about here we are? Who's that? She's writing. He probably didn't know how to drip wax right.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, it's an art.
Oh.
He probably had a bad
true.
experience, and he's like, "I'm not doing that again."
There we are.
Well, all he does is light candles. I mean, I'm sure he knew something about it.
Yeah, true. Good point. Good point. He's got those candles burning his house down eventually. He already was in danger of that a few times. So all that being said, dear Heather, how have things been with Vinny? Is his health better? Oh, hey, Heather. You've had kind of a. Are you open to talking about this neighborhood?
Oh, sure. Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it?
Could you put those same photographs into our text box here on this call for others to look at? Yeah, and then tell people about this and what's it like. I'd love to.
We talked a little bit. Really quiet at night. There's no children anywhere.
Cool. Sounds like heaven. Go.
Yeah.
I mean, we saw no children at the Presidio either, but we saw tons of fucking playgrounds, right, Brendan? Wasn't that the scariest, weirdest?
Yeah, it was bizarre. Yeah, it was bizarre. Every house had like a play structure. It was really weird.
Yeah.
Like it was some kind of family-friendly location. I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah, and it's the least family-friendly location in the world. You expect Bigfoot to come out of the woods and butt fuck you any fucking second. It's just a scary fucking place. And all you could, at any rate, all you could think of was the nightmare of these kids getting swept away, because it looks like that kind of environment where that could happen so easily. And obviously did. But
it was shady as hell.
Yeah.
What, like a Chuck E. Cheese?
Oh.
Worse. Chuck E. Cheese is like wholesome.
Yeah, it made Chuck E. Cheese look like a place you'd want to stay at, to move into. But take a look. Holly, Aristides, Brendan, take a look at these images. So, okay, Heather seems open to talk about this. Tell us about this. You live here now.
That is a Del Webb. It's a Del Webb community. I'm in the process of moving. I'm just like beating myself up.
Okay.
To move out here. It's where my mom was buried, and I've never gotten to live that close to where my mom was.
Okay. So
she was buried.
That looks interesting. It looks almost like it's got some kind of.
It looks like Nazca shit. Nazca line shit.
Got some magic to it.
Yeah, it's a UFO landing site. What the fuck?
It's all old people. Like once the lights go out, there's no street lights at night, and there's coyote, and there's bunnies that live outside.
Oh wow, that sounds like Presidio. Holy fucking shit.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. I mean, a lot of people come and go there because it's retirement, and lots of golf carts.
Are you sure that half those houses aren't burial sites where the guy just died inside and nobody bothered to dig the body out?
Well, there is some crazy stuff at the cemetery where it's in the very center of that X, where the big circles all go to. Those are the cemeteries for the city. They're all different churches of different denominations, and their burials are there and their funerals are there.
Damn! This is not just a retirement center. This is a live-in cemetery. It's like all these people are groundskeepers.
Yeah, it's like they're getting ready to go,
Yeah, they're getting ready to go.
I'm getting ready to go. That's why I'm being so nice to everybody.
Yeah. What? How do you get in here when you're underage?
I don't sign the lease.
Yeah, there you go.
Do you know?
I already get the senior menu when I go to the restaurant, so I'm not worried about that.
Oh my God! Why? Because you have no teeth?
No, I don't know. Because usually when we go to restaurants, I'm with like my mother and my dad or something, so they just give us 4 menus for old people. Vinny's over 55.
Oh well, he seems a lot younger. Now that I think about it, his voice is kind of like got that edge to it, kind of like he's older. But how is he health-wise? How is he now? Is he over the the illness?
No, he's not doing very good because he already has issues with his breathing, so when he gets sick, it gets pretty bad. He gets bronchitis every year.
Did he go to the doctor?
Yeah.
Okay, what'd the doctor say?
Nothing, just you got bronchitis.
Okay. Well,
yeah, that's about it.
well, did they do anything to help him? I mean, they must.
Yeah, they gave him medicine and everything. And he's just got a lot going on. He's still going to go to the dentist, blah, blah, blah.
Oh, the dentist. What's with his teeth again?
He's just getting a root canal. I don't know. He does whatever the veterans subscribe.
What is this shit about root canals? I noticed that, what's his face?
You don't need a root canal. I don't think anyone should get a root canal personally, but maybe that's something that needs to be done.
Well, if I remember, Dennis Marshall, who was a friend of Peter Moon's, or rather knew him for a long time. They're not friends. They hate each other. Peter Moon blocked him. But Dennis Marshall, who's contributed to myself monetarily, couldn't help me this last month because he was getting a root canal. And I know he wasn't making it up because he was in agony. But when it came to another person that was getting a root canal, if I'm not mistaken, it was Aristides and Holly-Coditis Kiefer. And now Vinny. What the fuck is this with root canals with everybody lately? It's like,
I guess it's the way that they're making money.
I'll say a bit here.
Nobody can afford implants.
Yeah, exactly.
So tell us first.
I didn't actually get. I did not get a root canal.
Oh, okay. What'd you get?
No. Yeah.
What'd you get?
Just like just a cavity fix.
Oh,
or a bad filling on a cavity fix.
Yeah, he has to get a crown too, right there.
Okay. Wow. And, well, Holly,
Holly was saying something.
Yeah, tell us about the root canal.
No, just my little thing about root canals is back in, I don't know what decade it was. I was too young to start losing teeth, you know, and I had one that was apparently beyond repair. And so back then you thought, oh, a root canal, that'll last the rest of my life.
That's what I would think. Yeah, that's what they tell you, right? Isn't that how it's advertised?
That it sure was. And I thought, well, I'm going to do it. And so I did. And then found out that they go off about every 7 years. So
they're probably built. They're probably sabotaged. They're probably built to disintegrate after 7 years, is what you're telling us.
I don't even understand it. And I had a really good one. It looked like a cinder block in my mouth. In the X-ray, you know, like half of my face would come out with that thing if it ever had to be pulled.
Oh my God!
And so that's what happened last Wednesday.
Right, they pulled it.
That's what happened.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize how long that thing had hurt. But the tooth is dead.
Yeah, I think that you shouldn't ever take your teeth out, personally. I think you could, like, if they come out, they come out, but...
Well, I was lucky, because this was the back end of the row. So it wasn't in the middle, which is why, you know, 7 years after the first one, I spent a bunch of money to save the tooth. But those happy money days are gone, and it was time to go. And it was time to go. And I got this great oral periodontal surgeon. Cut the middleman out. Don't bother going to the dentist. Find yourself an oral surgeon that'll also clean your teeth for $1.
Or some garlic.
Stick with her. Oh, I did it all. And it worked. Over and over and over. But now, oh man, she got it out in minutes.
Wow.
Shots were the worst part. And there was no bloody hole or blood clot to worry about. You know, it was like done.
Wow.
I was healed by that night. Didn't even hardly hurt.
Wow.
That's that's my miracle root canal story. Beware. But tooth pain is an issue. But you got to have a lot of money to replace one. So I was pretty good before in the decades, but the last decade I've neglected that situation.
Okay.
And so I'm trying to get back on the track because of the importance of fucking.
Yeah.
You know, so many reasons.
Yeah.
Gonna get the brown off them for me without bleach and all of it. And it was a reasonable cost out of pocket because I've been to the medical dentist. Don't do that.
That's for fucking sure. Go on.
Save your pennies for when it's time. You got to do something, right? So this was a miracle for me, and I'm so relieved and it was all blessed.
Wow. Wow.
Thank you, God. Oh, that was the tooth report. And I'm back, man.
Yes, thank God. Oh.
Yeah, and gonna take care of the rest of those soldiers.
Oh,
I still have my bottom wisdom teeth. I heard the lower jaw is like balsam wood. The dentist told me this, and the upper jaw is like iron.
Okay. You mean like these just parallels, or what they make the edifices out of? You know?
Like how the bone is made.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Lower jaw is flimsy, the upper jaw isn't. And that's the one that goes up on the brain nerves and shit. And the ears.
Yeah.
Ooh, that yank. Oh, I squealed. But, man, it was good.
Yes.
So, what was before that? That was a little digression.
Oh, that was no digression. We were just talking about how everybody was getting root canals, and I was saying, what the fuck is up with that? Then I remembered...
Oh, the root canal thing. Yeah, that's my sad root canal story.
Right.
Get one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Be prepared to keep trying to...
Yeah. But...
It's a good spot to get one.
Yeah, you're breaking up, honey. You got where are you?
I know it's been sketch. I think it's a Skype problem and not a YouTube problem.
Oh well, I think it's your cell problem. You're in a bad cell reception area, is what I think.
No, it's tricky here. It is, and I've come to my safe spot.
Oh.
The root canal. Okay. Just the root canal thing. And Heather, you sound like you've gotten better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good.
So.
Yeah, no, I've been packing and I can't stop. I have to stay focused and just push on through.
But you're actually
moving.
Oh, she's actually
into Mom's house.
No.
Yeah, no, I'm moving.
No, she's moving into a kind of live-in cemetery.
His mother's house.
No, she's not. She's moving into like a live-in cemetery where her mother is buried.
Oh no, she's right down the street. Yeah, but she's right down the street. It's like a.
What does that mean? She's right down the street, like her grave? You mean her
grave? Sun City? Yeah, it's Sun City. That's what it's called.
So I don't get it. Do they have graves interspersed with residences?
Yeah, it was Frank Lloyd Wright and Del Webb that built it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
I've been tracking Del Webb since the 80s.
Okay, so you've been tracking Del Webb since the... What do you know about this cemetery home duplex combo thing? It's like...
The Vaultorium. They're called the Vaultoriums.
Vaultoriums. So these are... So you're telling me that residences and the burial sites are interspersed with each other so you can visit your relations within walking distance if you're an elderly person living in this community where there's no children, but a lot of wildlife at night because all the lights go out and there's no street lights.
Well, it's like this.
I think that's great.
Yeah, no, it's like this. Where my mom is buried, there's nobody else in the cemetery that was born after 1900. So, I don't know, it just recycles itself.
Dang.
I'm not quite.
That's old.
I believe
They're real tombstones?
They're Masons, most of them. There's two people that are born in the 1900s. My mom is one of them, and this other guy who's probably buried with his grandparents.
So this
is like ornate tombstones?
Yeah, they're just grave markers. They're flat.
Not just markers, not fancy tombstones.
No, there's no stand-up ones there.
Okay.
So what you're saying?
A lot of strange things happen.
Yeah, a lot of strange things happen. What you're telling us is this is a Masonic necropolis. Is the term
necropolis? For it. That's great. I like that term. What does that mean?
It means it's a city of the dead.
Right, and there's a lot of lime in their artificial lakes and stuff, and because they have to keep the part under the ground, they have to keep it moist so that people don't decompose.
This was the vision of Del Webb, right?
Yes.
What kind of person thinks like that?
People that stay up all night building things.
Who got really, really, really rich plowing up wilderness.
Well, first off, I never even knew places like this existed in the United States, and it's
you're not supposed
Tucson,
to.
Southern Arizona, Phoenix. I think he's got a foot in Florida too. He's got to be so old by now.
What? He's still
Joe
alive?
Webb is dead.
I was about to say.
He's dead. Yeah, he must be dead. So it's his family legacy. Oh, he
they're
was
probably
a
rich.
monster developer.
His body's still moist, so he's like.
Yeah.
ready to come out anytime.
They call it
They froze.
they call it
his head so he
edopiercy
could
or
come
something
back.
like that. It's grave wax.
I'll say that again.
Say that again.
It's called like edopiercy or something like that, and it's grave wax. Like it's kind of like a way of mummifying people, but in a different sense.
So these are
Right.
this is a community of Masonic mummies.
Maybe.
No, it's just good old American old people. They flocked. God, that guy. He was a genius.
No, you don't
For better
understand.
or worse.
Every one of his developments couldn't have been like this. I've never heard of anything like this in America. And this is a necropolis. This is a Masonic community where people are living side by side with the dead. According to what Heather's saying, and I believe every word she's saying, it makes sense. It's a retirement community, and a person would want to be near their loved ones. You could visit them almost on a daily basis, depending on your health. Just walk down
but they're not their loved ones. People that are there, their loved ones aren't there. The people that are buried there,
of course.
old as
That's
fuck.
true.
But wait a second,
Yeah.
your loved one is there, and you're moving.
My loved ones there.
Yeah. Interesting.
So what's the logic?
My great-grandparents were buried there in a vaultorium, and the deed of the vaultorium said that this is a place for you and your family to be interred forever. Okay, and that was in the 70s when they got buried there and they bought it. So when my mom died unexpectedly, there just happened to be a spot in their place, you know, like where whatever she was included, and then I went there when I worked for the company that owns the cemetery.
The funeral home. Is that when you were working at the funeral home?
Yeah, the corporation.
Right.
They wouldn't talk to me about it, and they wouldn't. I think that they tried to assassinate me for knowing about it.
Was that the car accident?
Yeah.
Okay.
I bought the car from that cemetery.
You bought the car?
$500 as is.
I don't get it. What was the car, like, abandoned in the cemetery? What the fuck?
Was it a hearse?
One of the fleet cars. It was the coach car to the limousine to the hearse.
Okay, so you bought a hearse. You almost died in that hearse.
Yeah, it was parked at the cemetery where the crematory is. And it was parked there since like 1995, like 20 years or something. So it collected all of the dust from the burning people. Yeah. And it was diamondy. You can't burn people at night because then it turns black. The smoke turns black, so they're not allowed to burn people at night.
Well, there you go. And but aside from that,
Del Webb ran his own crematorium there.
The retort, no, they have their own little municipality. Like, there's no police there. There's like this weird posse.
That guy. Yeah.
You know him?
Not personally, but his imprint on.
Honey, you seem to know all about this guy. Holly seems to have slept with this son of a bitch.
Notorious.
He's talented.
No, I'm learning. Notorious. Just a total land baron who plowed up everything to build these massive self-contained communities.
There they are, self-contained communities. So
yeah, he's like the Disneyland of Arizona. The Walt Disney of Arizona.
And he was doing it before Disney.
Right.
And so it's I'm not quite. Aristides, Brendan, what are you gentlemen? Both you gentlemen, please respond here. What is your impression of this community? Don't everybody answer at once. Jesus Christ.
Right. Okay. Which the community of
Sun City.
Just vast housing developments in difficult places. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know.
But they keep having funerals and they keep interring people. All the people that have been there for 100 years are still there, and they still have space to bury people. So they you know, something else is happening.
No, well, I've never heard of a community like this. It sounds like something I would have thought of when I was young, because I would think like that. But then when I grew up,
because
everybody...
you never went to Florida or Arizona or any place that's warm year round.
Yeah, there's a pyramid on top of one of the mountains where one of the senators or something is buried, and his whole family's in this pyramid with him.
Okay. Wow. And it's like, I mean, Brendan, this sounds like real, it's whacked out, wild. You know, when I was young, I would think about that. Oh, people are going to die. They need a place to... I would have designed a community like this. But then everybody told me I was morbid, and nobody wants to live in a community where, you know, you're going to be buried.
No, you fit in. You would definitely fit in there, Douglas, because the people that run everything are vampires and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It sounds like it.
And the nature around them is all beautiful. You just have to walk a long way to get there on your walk, on your dog walk.
It's like, so in terms of the nature, you say that overnight it gets run over by wildlife, essentially, because at night the lights go out. It's a terror. I mean, I'm still having...
Do you have javelinas?
I'm sorry, no, just, I'm not sure about javelinas. That's more in the desert, but it's definitely got wild turkeys and coyote and bunnies.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and none of that will hurt you. You know?
Yeah. Brendan, tell her about the coyote warning signs at the Presidio, Brendan.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it said you're in a coyote danger area or something. Like it was going to snatch up your dog or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, our cats can't go outside.
Those little kids at the playground.
Yeah.
Yeah, it explains why there were no kids out.
Yeah,
there's no school. There's no school out there or anything.
Bad dogs.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was what was weird about it. There was nothing. There was no like municipal services. It was like, why would anyone live there?
Thank you. That's what makes it so.
There was no grocery stores. There's nothing, and people were living there.
Yeah, yeah. And yet you'd have to drive out of the Presidio to get anything. And God help you if you were dependent on that goddamn shuttle bus.
Yeah, the bus was useless.
I got a pizza slice right out the gate that was pretty good.
Well, I pointed it. Tell her about the bar. I showed you the final where it was. You'd have to...
Yeah, we saw final, yeah.
Yeah,
right.
well, describe to people what that is. You have to explain that too.
So it was some bar where all these military fools would hang out, and it was down the street from the Russian embassy, where all the Russian spies would go and leech information off drunk GIs and shit. And it's still there.
That crazy fire. Remember when it burned up? Douglas, you told us all about that.
I did?
Oh, yeah. Oh, no, it didn't burn up that time when they had to burn all the records.
Oh, you're talking about the arsons that happened at the Presidio.
No, at the Russian embassy.
Oh, yes, at the Russian embassy.
Something went tits up, and they had to...
Yeah, they forced the Russians out. They forced the Russians out because the Russians...
And on their way out,
yeah,
they burned every document.
Yeah.
Mansion.
Yeah.
That was crazy. Smoked the whole city out.
Yeah.
And it was a 100-degree heat wave, and they had those
incinerators.
Places.
Yeah.
Fire. And...
Yes. That's right. Yeah, and
about that.
Yeah,
right down the street from you.
Yes, that's right. I mean, it's a long walk, but it's down the street, so to speak. Yeah. I walk towards
the street.
Yeah, walk towards the Presidio. You get there because the Russian embassy was at the very end of Green Street, where Green Street hits the Presidio. That's where it was.
That's right.
Then they shut it down because they were beaming everybody. They shut it down because they were making everybody sick, like they were doing in Cuba and everywhere else, by beaming everybody around them for no goddamn good reason. I'm sorry, honey.
Beaming them with what?
Surveillance beams, like it's like something they could do.
What do they call it now? It's got a thing. What happened in Cuba?
Yeah, tell them, Holly. I mean, Holly,
Havana syndrome.
Yeah, Havana syndrome.
Havana syndrome.
Look that up. Everybody has to look up Havana syndrome. There's your homework. And
officially, it's still a big mystery.
Yeah. It's officially they don't know what they're beaming them with. Microwaves or something. Or they don't know why either, other than it serves some kind of surveillance purpose. Essentially, it's like an X-ray. You know, it's basically like X-ray.
Wait, what are you saying? What happened? Because that reminded me of something that happened to me that I've never told anybody.
Oh, okay.
But it was
Well,
like,
the thing of it is,
Whoa. Heather might
advice,
be. Let Heather remember. Do you remember what it is?
no,
You know?
yeah, I remember what it was, but I just couldn't figure out what it was.
Well, tell us what it was. I mean, what happened?
Well, I was really dehydrated. It was the summertime. I was at the cemetery, and I was bending down, you know, doing my thing, and all of a sudden it felt like in my head.
Wait a second. Bending down, doing my thing. What the fuck? Continue.
Fixing, washing off the headstone and putting flowers on it.
Okay, a grave. Yeah. Okay, then go on.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
And then it was like all of a sudden, like there was like you know the sound that an X-ray makes in the olden times when it's like goes cha-ching, and it makes that weird ringing sound.
Okay.
Yeah, and it made that sound, and it took a picture. Like it was like an X-ray in my head. Like all of a sudden everything went black.
Yeah.
And it was like I got flashed with something. So when you said that, it kind of reminded me of that.
Oh. No.
The advice is if you experience something like that, the only advice is get off the X.
X?
Ecstasy.
Get off the X.
The ecstasy.
Oh, I wasn't doing X at that
X
time.
marks the spot where your body is.
Oh, okay. Yeah. By the way, I like all these response. First off, the whole situation altogether is so surrealistic. The first thing I'm going to ask Heather is, what's this between you and fucking cemeteries? Why are you always in a goddamn cemetery? And then they had other things.
And the children of the grave.
PB.
Yeah. What's that, Brandon? What's that?
Her chart shows that.
Oh, okay. So explain that to us. Explain that to us about her chart showing all this necromantic involvement.
Yeah, she has heavy
necessarily
PB.
Morbid.
Yeah, and I like Holly. His cemeteries aren't necessarily morbid, and it's of course not. I take my family there for picnics every other day. I mean, it's like
some of them are. That was the great revolution in European cemeteries, that you can be free to walk among your good memories and enjoy natural, pleasant spaces for picnicking and stuff. It's not. It's honoring.
Look, I appreciate that.
There's also a mausoleum. The mausoleum, they let people decompose naturally, so it always smells really bad. No one ever wants to go in it, but they do offer that service.
Wow. Yeah. Oh shit.
Yeah, but so
here's a fun fact: a mausoleum is a structure where the entire whole body coffin slides in. A columbarium is a structure where you just buy a box and your ashes go into it.
Okay. It's
mausoleum, columbarium. Just a fun fact.
Yeah,
why do you guys know so much about cemeteries?
Yeah, well, both of you seem really morbidly.
Mortuary experts?
I think there are a couple of necrophiles. You know, women. You know what? Women like to become necrophiles because the men aren't, beating them up and shit. And all
there were things that didn't make sense to me, and so I got a job at a cemetery and mortuary, and I had to learn about things from the inside so I could figure shit out.
Basically,
I guess
let's put it this way. Let's put it this way. Holly and Heather are kind of unconventional in appearance, and they just take that mortician's needle and they shove it down the piss-slit of that penis, and it's erect, okay? Yeah, then they can ride that cadaver like there's no tomorrow, and it never goes down.
Exactly.
And
this is why. This is why death work is women's work, because guys are so fucking squeamish.
That must be
that's not true either.
That's the reason. They think all needles in my dick and blah, blah, blah. No.
I don't know about that. I didn't do mortuary science.
I didn't either, but I know.
That begs the question again that Brendan Zogit was asking. How do you two know so fucking much about this?
I love
and it's like niche details. It's
I know. It's like they grew up. Both of them grew up surrounded by dead bodies.
I love a person.
I'm just trying to go home, That's all I'm saying.
I don't have a problem with their dead body. If I love them...
I don't get it. Are you trying to see? I said necrophile. Did I not say necrophile?
Yeah, it's something. Yeah, it's something.
Well, no, you know what? There are always weird things that happen. There was a snake.
You just can't understand. I guess you need a uterus to understand it.
That must be
one time there was a snake there, and the snake made
man.
a hole underneath the grave marker. And then after the snake made a hole in the grave marker, the bunnies went in there because it was like originally the bunny's home, and then the snake went in there and took over the bunny hole. And this was right at my. I'm trying to find a picture of it. It's right at my property.
This shit's wild, man.
But Brendan and Aristides, I don't know if either of you guys gets. I'm still trying to figure out how this community. Like I said, when I was young, I would have designed a community where people live here, but they also die, and I would have set up something stupid. People kept telling me how stupid it was. This idea of you kind of combine the. A necropolis. You basically have the dead living side by side.
It's not bad. It's not bad.
And look, I'm not saying it's bad, but everybody told me that this was not how it works. Nobody wants to live near the dead. But what she's describing is a community that she's going to move into with Vinny, where she can just walk down and visit her dead mother. And apparently, there's all kinds of these dead piles of dead bodies everywhere within various structures.
No, they're mortuaries, and they're actually cemeteries. They're pretty.
Yeah. So
we know it's true, but why? That's why is this necessary?
Land is scarce. Body burials.
But then there's this Masonic aspect to it, where she's telling us, and there's Masonic pyramids, and they're all Masons. So this is very cultic, and it's very occult. And I'm beginning to realize the circular nature of the
third Masonic tracing board is like a coffin and a skull, and they have to meditate on death.
Well, like when you're young, you have to make your own coffin, and they do that one thing where you make your own coffin, so like the actuality of life.
Holy shit!
Yeah.
And so
I respect that shit.
They make their own coffin, and so because one day they're going to be prepared to go somewhere. They're not living in this world permanently because they go away, like my mom went away.
And did you not wake up in a funeral home?
Well, on the floor. Yeah, I was working there.
And then woke up on the floor.
Yeah, I worked a graveyard shift.
Of course, yes, and woke up on the floor, and there was this guy who couldn't talk, deaf, mute, something like that, who used to.
He had Tourette's.
Okay, and did he do something to you, like date rape you?
Yeah, he did. He was like a mass hypnotist or something. So he would hypnotize me, I guess, while I was sleeping in my office.
Then you were probably taken advantage of.
Oh, I'm sure he did stupid stuff, but I don't think he touched me. I don't think that he was like that. He did my mom's funeral like 30 years before that.
That means he probably molested her as well.
Right, but not me. Yeah, it didn't happen to me. I woke up and I would start laughing, and because I couldn't get hypnotized, I guess, from him because he had Tourette's and he kept messing it up.
Maybe that freaked him out and he stopped. Like,
yeah.
Oh my God, she keeps coming back to consciousness and laughing.
Well, I wasn't supposed to know that he lived in the mortuary, so he would sneak around at night. His toothbrush was there, and I just pretended like he wasn't there. And he'd watch me go through all the file cabinets and do my dirty work.
Thank you for sharing that. That's
wild, man.
Yeah.
You can't even make this shit up.
No.
And Holly, what about your own home? You no longer live in the haunted home, right?
No, I certainly do.
You do?
It's a strange thing. Yes, I do.
But Michelle Carmela Saldana.
If I lose my little foothold here, I'll never get it back.
Yeah, so Michelle Carmela Saldana cleared it, though. She cleared it.
Certainly did. And I've been okay ever since.
I don't know. She couldn't clear her sinuses.
Well, whatever. I hope wherever she is, she's doing okay.
Oh,
I hope so too.
Enough was the target here.
Let's put it this way: she has her own wherever she goes, she wants. You know what it reminds me of? There's a story of an Indian tribe or one of these folk tales about Native Americans or some indigenous tribe where they were dealing with one demon infestation or some kind of haunting, maybe a loup-garou or some kind of werewolf or something, and some entity came in and it dispelled it and then said, now you must worship me, and kind of inhabited the area. And these are compared to cosmic leeches, where they just parasitize off people's need to have something to worship. And what happened was when the priest came in, one of the missionaries coming with the conquistadors or later Franciscan settlers or something, and they said you have to stop worshiping this entity who settled in the lake, and then they converted to Christianity, and then they all wound up dying. The lady in the lake drew them all into the lake where they all drowned, entire families. There was this, I've heard of these kinds of folkloric tales at the Presidio where Aquino was keeping anthropological records of them. But this is what Michelle Carmela Saldana is like. When she goes in and clears a place, then she settles in, cements herself in, and then says, now you must worship me. That's what Michelle Carmela does. She's very similar to this kind of cosmic leech that comes in and says, you must worship me. I am, I'm your savior. That's where the street preacher angle came in. So you can't deny there's that element to her. So now we have...
she wasn't much into dialogue.
Yes, there is.
Put it that way.
Thank you. So we've got these wonderful images from our lovely Heather Holman. Thank you for them. And maybe you can give us a bit of a background behind these images, Heather? Don't be shy. You.
I was just going through my Google Photos looking for pictures of the cemetery to show you, and I just kept saving different ones on accident.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
I'll look at those later.
Yeah. And
nothing scary.
Well,
hey, you guys went to the semi at Presidio. What the hell? And you know the difference, a graveyard is on consecrated ground adjoining a church. A cemetery is not.
Okay.
But back number 2.
Thank you.
Columbarium Mausoleum.
Again, did you grow up just reading this shit like the way other people read romance novels? What the fuck?
I'm just a
inquiring in one of the pictures with the flowers, you could see the hole where a snake hole took over the bunny hole, and it went in on one side and went out on the other side, and I finally had to have them fix it.
I see.
Because there was like a snake pit underneath.
There's a snake pit over your mother's head.
Yeah, well, there were spiders. I mean, it's been a long time. I've experienced a lot of things.
I'm looking at the photograph. Your mother's headstone, presumably, that's your mother's whole body, right? Is in there?
No, where? That's me in the shadow.
No, I mean your mother's whole body's underneath that headstone, right?
No, I don't think so. I really don't. I think that was because her paperwork said that it was just a memorial park, and she didn't pay for like opening and closing of the grave, and they didn't do the burial permit. There was a problem with the burial permit. Everything was just fishy. So I don't think she's buried there. I think that she's just memorialized there, but she's supposedly buried there.
That's the thing now. That's why everybody cremates now. Nobody gets buried whole anymore. Too expensive.
Well,
there's no land for it.
Well, my parents are both buried whole. And
my grandparents are too.
Oh.
Really? Yeah. No, only my dad was, not my mom.
Okay, but I mean,
and I would like to be buried whole, but I don't see any way to, It is like buying property. That was my friend's joke here. She, after 30 years renting here.
Well, you get a land deed.
A square to put her ashes urn in, and she was a PG homeowner.
Yeah, but in terms of
property owner.
Yeah. But what Heather said makes my head spin. That she doesn't believe her mother's buried underneath that slab.
And that's probably part of my mental illness. Who knows?
Okay, so she might
I wouldn't drill down too hard on that myself.
Yeah.
I stopped after a while.
Right.
Good.
Right.
And it is, and you have that link that you have with her.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I thought my mom was dead my whole life. It was just later on, like recently, in the recent past, that I've changed my opinion on that.
What do you think now?
I think that it was something else. I don't think that she died there because it's a memorial park.
But she didn't die there, but you feel she's not interred there.
Right, but she's memorialized there, and I think that, I mean, it could have something to do with time travel. I mean, I haven't really tried to figure it out.
Right. Maybe,
You know.
like Heather, like Holly said, maybe you shouldn't. Maybe you shouldn't.
Yeah, I stopped.
Yeah.
You know, I learned everything I needed to know from my grandpa, and so, you know, he told me everything pretty much.
Right. But I still think that both Holly and Heather have an absolutely bizarre Barbie doll twins. No, it's the green android woman on the beach. What was that spearmint gum commercial? What was that? Double your pleasure, double your fun. They showed the green android twins. Yeah. What was that? You're like both of that, except instead of at the beach, you're both at a cemetery.
We're just women, and we are built to process the nitty-gritty of death.
I don't think your average woman does that, Holly.
Well, not anymore. They've all been, you know, Americans don't process. In Asia, don't women do the death work?
No, we have a classless caste in Japan called the
untouchables.
Yes, Barukaman.
No one wants to have anything to do with.
That's right.
It's nonsense. If you love the person,
you keep coming back to
love the person. It's like, how could you not? That's what I never understood, the reason why Catholics have wakes. But now I do.
Yeah, there's a reason why Catholics have wakes, so they can drink and party. That's why they have wakes.
That's the good part. That's the good part. But if I don't get to see the dead body, I think they're just traveling in Brazil or something.
Right.
There's something that happens in the brain.
Right.
That closes it. And then you can drink and party and have a wonderful time. Because especially with hope to God, it was a good death.
Right.
You know.
And so Aristides, Brendan, certainly you guys got some thoughts on this death stories.
You guys are like children, man.
That must be it. That must be it. They're just little boys who just can't come to grips with the beauty of death.
Help me, Aristides, help me.
Yeah.
I don't know how to help.
I'll
be honest.
Step aside. We'll do the watching.
If you want I'm like listening, but I'm kind of like spacing out. If you want my input, you got to back up a couple steps.
On the drift.
Or just keep going.
I like the drift. I do. I did a little while before, but I came back.
Oh my fucking God.
Not for much longer.
Well, you guys are doing so great. I'll be taking a break soon. But even if you ladies leave, I know Brendan can hold it along with Aristides while I'm gone, which won't take too long, but, you know, definitely want to get a break in before I go into monologue. But, oh my God, I think you two ladies have really just blown our fucking minds. All our fucking minds. The listeners and everybody.
I mean...
Okay. It's
sorry, dead air.
No. It's
dead air. Get it?
Yeah,
dead air. Huh?
I got one in there.
Yes, you did. So what is this, Heather? Neat little Christmas tree or something?
No, those are peacocks. The same peacock, actually. I took those pictures of a peacock.
Oh, okay, but it's dead or taxidermized, right?
No, it's alive.
It's alive. Oh shit! Oh God, let me turn that shit off.
That's cool.
God damn! Don't do that. Don't do that.
What did
okay,
I
it blows
do?
my eardrums out. Okay, that's don't give me footage.
Picture.
The oh, that's awful. God.
It's just a. Oh, okay. I sent a video. I didn't know that. I thought it was pictures.
Yeah.
I'm blind.
Yeah. Yes, I get it. And it blows my eardrums out when I see something like that.
I'm sorry, Douglas.
No worries. Yeah. Okay. And thank you for being sorry about it. I appreciate that. Okay, but
no sweat.
No worries. You can make up for it by holding the stage with Brendan as soon as Holly checks out to go to sleep, because I think Holly's falling asleep slowly. Holly, are you entering that dream zone? Is that what's going on, Holly?
Pretty soon.
Okay.
I'd cover your break.
Yeah. Okay. Great.
With those guys.
I'm not ready to check out just yet for the break. I'm just trying to get my head together, thinking about all the different things there is to cover and talk about in monologue. Give me a second to swallow and recover my hearing.
Do you have? Can you like sum up this whole DeepSeek thing in 90 seconds or less?
What's this about 90 seconds or less, honey? I'm sorry, I missed that.
The whole DeepSeek.
Oh yes. Oh, DeepSeek. Well, I'll cover that tonight in monologue. But by all means, by all means, Brendan, give them a summary, please. And we'll see if he's with us or if he can come out. Is he with us?
Okay.
He's with us, Brendan. And
Aristides might have 2 cents in the matter.
Aristides, tell us about DeepSeek.
I don't know about it.
No worries.
Right.
It's okay. It's okay. No worries.
Deep sea. Did you say deep sea? What is that?
Deep sea.
SEEK.
Yeah, like
deep
seekers.
sea.
Yeah, SEEK. Like seekers.
What is this supposed to be?
DeepSeek. It's like it's
a fantasy. I mean, it would be so amazing
what?
If that skinny little Chinese guy pulled the rug out from under the big 7 in his stroke. Right?
Right.
Now, what are they going to do to him?
Right. But by the way, I appreciate the fact that you're talkative and you're making logical sense. I understand what you're saying, but I'm just curious. Did you when you had the real bad ache and you were trying to ease it with vodka? I mean, how come that didn't make you talkative? So what's got you talkative tonight? Is it that you're that you're not drinking vodka? Is it because when you were drinking vodka, you kept your lips sealed. You didn't want to talk when you were drinking vodka.
I'm drinking vodka.
Probably because my tooth was hurting.
Okay, there we are. And there goes Heather with her grandpa. Was that the dirty old man, or was this a decent guy?
No, that's my grandpa with my daughter, and he's the one that was my mom's dad. Yeah.
Oh.
He wasn't dirty.
Okay.
I was dirty. He wasn't dirty.
Okay. And
wait, is this the Mason?
Yeah.
Yeah, my grandpa.
Yeah.
He didn't like the way that I was because I was really just like a naughty kid.
And that's your daughter. You know the tragic story of Heather's daughter, right, Holly?
No, I don't.
I haven't talked to her.
Okay, if you're
tragic stories about daughters, that's oh boy.
If you're willing to share a summary